It starts with a wizard. He's old and he's wise, and though he is small, there is strength in his size. The Goliath from the west, he's not smart, but he's strong. The Flagon Slayers, this is their song. Now the warlock, he's lost all the memories he had, 'cause to deal with a demon went seemingly bad. And the druid on his quest to save the shadow plane, when you hear tortured souls, you'll remember his name. They're the Flagon Slayers, and this is their song. They're the Flagon Slayers, the adventure goes on. The cleric, she heals in the light of the moon. She wants to find purpose, it'll come someday soon. Then the rogue draws his sword, metals clashing again. When it comes to a duel, he will always win. They're the Flagon Slayers, they drink and they fight. They're the Flagon Slayers, by day or by night. They're the Flagon Slayers, and this is their song. They're the Flagon Slayers, the adventure goes on.
Welcome in, guys. We're back on the Flagon Slayers channel. I haven't done an intro in a while, so it's a little weird for me. Usually Jacob's doing the intros. It's just me and Hunter tonight. We have officially hit 5 years into this campaign. Exactly 5 years ago to the date, we had our first session, and it's pretty exciting. It happens to be 5 days after we finished the second chapter of our campaign, and we're going into pretty much the final battle, which chapter 3 will probably just be 10, 12 episodes max. We say that now, it'll end up being like 50 episodes or something. So today, I just wanted to go over, I thought this would be a good time. I wanted to make a recap for anybody who may be wanting to join into the storyline this late in the game. I mean, 5 years is a lot to go back and watch. We used to do recap videos, but even those ended up being 45 minutes to an hour long, so not really a great recap. But yeah, I wanted to go over that. Me and Hunter are going to kind of share some thoughts on it. We don't have Jacob here tonight to like kind of go over some of his thoughts from the DM perspective. But we will probably get into some sort of video like that after this whole thing's over anyway. But yeah, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, Hunter lived in a studio apartment in when we were in college, and down in the basement of that apartment building, there is a community room, and we all met up and we played on Saturday mornings every 2 weeks at 7:00 a.m. because we were in college, and that was the only time that worked for all of us to join.
We were very poor.
Very poor.
So poor.
We would get some mimosas and some donuts, and we'd sit in the basement of this place and play for 4 hours. The group at the time, a little bit different. We had one other member of our group who went to school with us, who ended up not making it to be streaming. But we did end up having Michael join the group. He played Braun for chapter 1 and a little bit of chapter 2. And then also we have lost Corey as well, who played Lochnar. I also have our original character art on this today because I thought it'd be fun. And then I've added Zach's character, Sirius. He joined in the middle of chapter 2, so he did not have original art from college. But yeah, we actually went over a slight recap. We were going to do a video like this a while back, and I don't think we ever got to it. But I'll start off with our original meeting place, and then me and Hunter will kind of talk about just the major points throughout the campaign. Um, First place we met, Drina. How much do you remember about that, Hunter?
Is that the fishing village?
Yeah, we actually just got there in the campaign
Um,
now.
I think it was called the Sunnet.
You're cutting out a little bit.
I think the bar we first met was the Sunshine Tavern, right?
Even I don't know that.
I think no, because I specifically remember it was like the Sunshine Tavern or something like that.
Let's see. Let's see how well I took notes 5 years ago.
It's like in the very, very beginning.
Here's my first picture I ever drew of Animus.
I remember drawing a cock on that.
That's my background. Yeah, I think something along the lines of Sunshine Tavern.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the tavern, and I don't remember much after that because I think like we took off pretty fast from the tavern to fight whatever the hell was going on.
Yeah. There was a... You guys did something in town. So Jacob did the classic meet in a tavern. He wanted everyone to have that as their first intro into D&D. And with that, he had them all start in the town. I think I was the only one who played D&D prior to us meeting, so I had a slight intro already created. I didn't end up playing in our first session until like 2 hours in. They were all in the town of Drina. Some sort of fight broke out on the docks, and you enlarged Lochnar, and he broke the dock. That's what I remember the best.
Yeah, I remember I was very happy about using the enlargement spell all the fucking time.
And you and Lochnar also had a crazy great relationship from the start, which was really funny.
We did, yeah. It went really well. I would say that's probably like the biggest thing that Anzu's missed ever since is like he hasn't really had someone to bounce stuff off of.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Lochnar were pretty close, and they had a groove going on. So.
Yeah, and naturally, you and Corey played really well to the fact of like being able to joke with like certain things, almost enabling also in a lot of areas of the campaign where like other people don't quite do that, for sure.
Right.
I was super angst when I was starting to play my character, so I wasn't doing much joking around at that point. So we started in Drina. That is now where we are, and we'll get to that. But the first thing we ever did was the party. They did. Oh, I found it. We met in the Sunshine Lodge. Holy shit!
There we go, Sunshine Lodge. See,
you were right.
I'm good at this.
So you guys chased a druid out of town who had just attacked the fishing dock or whatever.
Yeah, you were introduced later.
I was introduced on that chase. So you guys fought him, and about 2 hours into the session, he took off and he chased, like, you guys all did your intros of your characters. You talked a little in the bar when you walked outside. This druid did something to like blow up the fishing docks, and then you guys went into a full chase. And then on that chase is when you met me. I was already like watching these druids and like kind of like staking them out, and I had trapped the one that you guys were chasing, and then dropped out of the trees because angsty, and then you guys met me for the first time. Yeah, and then we that was our first thing we did was we took out these druids. And eventually some notes that we found led us north to Whitestone, and kind of skipping a bunch of the stuff we did at the very start. I mean, Lochnar got his extremely popular, or I guess very famous or infamous sword, however you want to look at it, Flamenar. Flamenar was with Lochnar for the longest time before, I think right before Corey left the stream, he got a new sword and kind of interacted with it for a couple weeks, but I think that's right around when he left as well. So, but after everything, we ended up heading up to Whitestone. In Whitestone, we ended up meeting one of Jacob's favorite characters. I know he wished he could sit here and talk about this character for the next hour, but we're just going to pass on over him. It was Oscar the chef. And other than that, he kind of went with us up to Whitestone, and we started doing one of our more major quest lines, which was saving... what was her name? Oh my gosh, how do I not have her name? One of the Derolos, I believe, was who it was, but... Oh, Vesper. Vesper.
Yeah, and then I do remember, God, maybe it was our first mission. We ran into like a water spirit or something. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
I think that's where Lochnar got the flame sword.
Long time ago, yeah.
We ran into
That was
a water
probably our
spirit.
first thing.
Yeah, that was the druid cave. We came across the druids. We followed them into a cave. And then when we took them out, we had the water spirit we fought. And then Lochnar saw Flamenar sitting at the bottom of a pool of water. So when he dove down to grab it, that was our first like major item we found. That was our first big win.
Mm-hmm.
And that was our first big fight. So, jump up to Whitestone. We did a bunch of stuff with the Derolos. We saved Vesper from just like overall she was being kidnapped, I believe, by some people who end up kind of being a major part of our campaign as it is now. But another major point for Anzu, you lost your finger.
Yeah, pretty early on.
Yeah,
What a kick in the nuts.
We got to a room called the Ziggurat under Whitestone that blocked magic use, and there was this black hole style thing. Do you remember much of your reasoning of this? Almost kind of started your chaos or your chaotic side of like, I'm just gonna touch everything.
Well, okay. Did I know that there could be risks? Sure. There's a risk to everything. But to be fair, the way it was described, I was like, I don't know. It could be a portal, right? And maybe it's like a test, like, oh, if we get sucked into it or something, we'll go do like this amazing journey, or we might win something. The group was kind of poor back then, you know.
We were very poor.
So like, we were desperate. We weren't like the multi-millionaires that people know us as now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was expecting to be greeted with riches. Obviously, that didn't happen.
That was a good first lesson of the dark side of what can happen of trying to constantly touch things, or constantly mess with things is probably the better term there. Anzu lost his finger to the Shadowfell. I believe it went somewhere into the Shadowfell. We've never seen it since.
Supposedly it's still in there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Supposedly. Currently the Shadowfell is totally corrupt, so that we can't even go in there as we are now to try to save it. So from Whitestone, what was this? You also went unconscious. That was one of the first like major points. Anzu was the first person to go down and almost die in a fight because we had to. Once again, this room was anti-magic, so when he went down, potions didn't work because potions are magical, and spells didn't work even if you cast them from outside of the range of this place because casting something into it, it was anti-magic. So when Anzu went unconscious, he was making death saving throws while we're running him down the stairs to get outside of this room to be able to heal him so that he doesn't die. That was probably the first time of many that Anzu went down in this campaign.
Yeah, we were gonna have to get used to the idea of especially me going down quite a bit. And we did.
We did.
I mean, I think ever since there was only one moment where we really thought something bad might happen, and that was when the 3 ran into me.
Right, yeah.
Um, but other than that, it's been pretty good. Like, yeah, I've gone down, but we've always been pretty confident that, like, it was gonna be okay.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple really big scares. I think we'll get to those though. We have a few major deaths that I will touch on when we get to them.
Well, and I
But
mean, it worked out because I think in the beginning I was always worried about that. Um, but I think I kind of heard from other people that it's actually really common for wizards to go down
yeah,
a lot. But not only that, it's pretty common for wizards to actually die before they even,
get
you
high
know,
enough level.
I guess reach maturity.
Yeah.
Um, which, I mean, looking back, was it risky being a wizard for my first D&D character? Yeah, probably. But I think it's paid off quite a bit. I mean, I don't know if I would be as confident to say that Anzu's the strongest person of the Flagon Slayers, but I would
You have the
think
highest
that
damage output.
right. Yeah,
By
he's
far.
kind of a glass cannon. I mean, if he
As
wanted to
wizards
blow
go.
something up pretty fast, I would think he can do it. So I
Yeah.
think there's like a good trade-off there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can get targeted easily, but you also have the highest damage output of the whole group, so um and then I think I've kind of become a tank a little bit after Lochnar left, just because I can
I
turn
use
in.
you as a group tank.
Yeah, I mean, like, no one else in
I
the
personally
in
like it.
the in the group can absorb that much damage consistently, because druids can, of course, turn. And then my druid, especially with how Jacob has allowed me to kind of build it, I have 2 animal shapes and an elemental shape.
Well, I would like to point out if Mr. Lepellier was in this campaign fighting with us, he would be the tankiest
He
person
would
ever.
watch some of our one shots to understand that. Um, our first episodes we put out into or onto Twitch and YouTube, I guess. Just our first episodes we ever streamed. We went to the ball, the Winter's Crest Festival, and that is where we met a lot of major players who are still major parts of this campaign as they are now. And that includes Thea's dad, Targaris. That also includes Cran, who was Anzu's ex-pupil who ran the school that Anzu created, which that'll be our next talking point. We also Zygon met Mathis, who is one of the probably the most important character we've met in this entire campaign when it comes to an ally that we have. We also met a couple other smaller characters, but most of that was just mostly around those 3 characters have kind of like pushed on from now. After doing all the stuff with Vesper and saving Vesper, we moved over to Westrun. I think we were heading to Amon for a specific reason. We were just kind of like led to Amon from the Vesper thing. We ended up finding a secret cave where we fought doubles of ourselves. I don't remember what episode that is. I think it's like episode 10 or 11. Do you remember that fight where we fought doubles of ourselves?
Yeah,
in the
I was
mirror?
a barbarian.
We, in very early days, we drank a lot more, I think. And we also brought a lot
What a
of...
great way to introduce that.
We brought a lot of alcohol to these streams. So while we were doing that stream, I don't remember that fight. It is the only thing in this whole campaign I don't remember. And when I watch it back, I still haven't fully like grasped the information.
From my understanding, I was in a loincloth. Other me was in a loincloth, should I say. I think you... God, what were you?
I think it was an
fighter?
artificer.
One of us was. It may have been you.
I don't like I said. There's not much I can remember about that fight. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that fight was interesting. I mean, I think we fought them off pretty easily. I don't think there was too much competition, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. Jacob was still balancing fights at the time. That was kind of like early days. We won a lot of fights in chapter 1. We won a lot of fights in chapter 1. And then when chapter 2 hit, that's kind of when we started really getting to that point of like Jacob figured out how to balance fights to where we struggled. And that's when we started having a lot more. We also were like 2 years in at that point. So we started maybe even just a year and a half in. We just started understanding how to role play off each other better. Our characters had kind of become more fitting to what everyone like worked with us and then also worked with the rest of the group. We had good storylines going. So I think chapter 2 definitely was when all that kind of hit. But chapter 1, we won like everything. I don't remember losing much in chapter 1.
Yeah, I mean, it was a while until we had our first loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we got to Westrun, that was one of our first, God, what did we, hold on. Oh, we met your son. We met Richter in Westrun. That was one of our most immediate things that we did. We met Richter, which is Anzu's son, adopted son. Eventually in the campaign, Richter, we find out that Richter is Anzu's adopted son with Linares, who is Thea's aunt. And Richter also is a dragon, so he's a dragon who can hold human form. We did not know that until, I think, a lot later, but he took us up to the Cobalt Conservatory. That's where our next major kind of stuff happens.
I think for the most part, Richter being a dragon was pretty well hidden, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we knew about it until maybe 30 episodes later. Which at the beginning of our campaign was like a year later, because that's right when COVID hit, so... yeah. Anzu was found out to be one of the four co-founders, or the four founders, original founders of the Cobalt Conservatory, which included himself, Linares, what was the dude's name that you fought? That is...
Cran.
Not
Oh,
Cran.
no, Velshanar,
and the Feywild girl that I can't remember.
Titania.
Thank you. Titania. Those are the four. Our major thing that happened in Westrun was Cran was running the Cobalt Conservatory, which was Anzu's ex-pupil, and Cran ended up being evil. He pretty much sold out the school for more power. Long story short, we ended up in a fight with Cran. He was trying to get rid of all the magical students for to basically sell their magical power, which was killing them as we were fighting. And eventually a Baylor appears during this fight, and me at the time, I don't know what really my full thought process was. I think at one point I was both thinking, we're too weak to take this on, and I don't want to get rid of my magical items, because Jacob's option for us was get rid of magical items and sell them to this Baylor so he doesn't kill you, or try to fight it and die. We were level 5, maybe 6 at the time. There was 0% chance we were beating a Baylor. So I made a deal with the Baylor, and I got Warlock levels, and that started another major part of my storyline outside of just the Aramente, which ended up being I had to kill whoever's name showed up on my arm, because the Baylor would speak to me by burning someone's name into my arm, and then I'd have to kill them, and once I killed them, their soul would go to the Baylor forever, and now the Baylor owns their soul, basically. But I think the most major part that we eventually found out 3 years later, Cran, when he died, his soul or body, he like disappeared and got sucked into this magical ring he was wearing, and we didn't fully understand at the time that that was going to be so important to the fact that that happened with some of our major big bads, like, over the years. That is exactly what happened multiple times over. They didn't die and their body was there. They died and their whole body disappeared into some sort of magical artifact that they were wearing. What you designed the Cobalt Conservatory with Jacob a little bit beforehand.
I did.
And also, secondarily, I'll let you kind of talk on all of this. Early on, each of us gave Jacob kind of what we wanted to with our backstories, what we had ideas for our character. That ranges from multiple pages of stuff that I created, that Abby also kind of got into it really quickly, did that kind of thing. And that goes down to what Zygon or what Brady did, which was, Jacob, I don't have a backstory, I'll give you some ideas as we go, but I want you to build on that. And now Zygon has probably one of the most intricate backstories in the entire group. You added backstory while we played, like the fact that you were married to Linares, which Jacob was not fully prepared for when you originally said it, but has now become one of the coolest parts of your storyline. What are your thoughts kind of on the overall part of, like, the Cobalt Conservatory and why you decided to, like, make changes like adding Linares or Richter and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I remember when we first started, I felt like the group in general was going to have, you know, fairly young players, and I wanted something to contrast that, right? So my thought was, well, what if I did someone that was old as fuck? And, you know, everybody was like, I remember Brady told me he was going to be 6 feet tall. Lochnar was going to be like 7. I think until Anzu, you were going to be the shortest at like 5'5" or something, which is pretty average for a Kinku.
I'm like 4 foot something.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to get the exact height because I don't remember. I don't always remember my height at the top of my head. I just always remember I'm the second shortest. Continue. 4'11".
So then I kind of thought, okay, well, what if I just do the opposite to make things fun? Like, what if I just make someone who has been through a little bit, right? And that was where the whole, like, oh yeah, maybe he fought in, like, the war with Vox Machina, right? Not necessarily next to them, but, like, he was just a foot soldier at the time. And, you know, like, maybe he's already lived his life. And that's kind of what I wanted to roll with. But at the same time, I feel like it was going to be a little tough, because what's the excuse for him leaving all that behind, right? Like, everyone knows that Anzu used to be, like, this level 20 wizard who started, you know, school and all that.
Of one of the most major schools in the continent.
Right, so, like, if you already have everything, what's your excuse for going back to the start? And mine was going to be, well, he lost his wife. He's a drug addict, and his son's a dragon. So like a lot of his petty stuff that he complains about, son would never understand because he's gonna live to be like 2,000 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as Linares, I actually think I did tell Caleb, or not Caleb, Jacob about it. I just think he was balancing everyone's characters at the time, so he probably forgot about it. Um,
I can tell you right now, I'm doing that for 2 campaigns at this very moment, and it is tough to remember what everyone requests for their backstories. But that's why I
right.
write down I write down so much stuff. I
Yeah.
write
So
down
I mean, I'm
everything.
sure he just kind of forgot about it, which I don't really blame him. I mean, when you're dealing, what did we start off with? 6 people.
Yeah, 6
It
people.
can be a little intense.
Really, any of our first big campaigns, I think Jacob had played D
Yeah.
and D and maybe also DM'd a little bit before. But
Well,
like,
and I specifically remember Jacob really liking the idea of Anzu being married at one point in time. Uh, and the fact that he is a kid. And then I asked Jacob, I actually thought he was going to shoot this down. I was like, can his kid be a silver dragon? And he was like, okay, you're going to have to pitch this to me. Like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you know, I just got into D&D, so I'm reading a bunch of books, and I read in the books that silver dragons like to pose as people because they get so bored, right? They live for thousands of years, they don't know what to do, so they come down and pretend to be humans. And I was like, what if, like, he just found this egg one day, it turned out to be a silver dragon, and he took care of it, and, like, that's how we could build this dragon into, like, a normal human life, was like, well, they naturally like to live human lives, you know?
right.
Um, and I mean, the rest was kind of history. Like, the school thing was just kind of fun. I like Harry Potter. I thought it would be cool to have kind of a Hogwarts thing going on.
I
Uh,
loved that. I loved everything that we did at the Cobalt Conservatory was so fun.
this is probably one of my more favorite parts of the school. I think the only complaint I've ever really had is that we didn't spend more time there.
Yeah.
Um, I think there was a lot that we could have explored that we just didn't really get the chance to.
Yeah, that's definitely. I
Um,
think also, I mean, we didn't think. I don't think any of us could have thought 5 years ago we'd be doing this still 5 years later. I think maybe at the time we were like, oh, we got to move on to the next thing. I mean, I know all of us at the time were like, we got to move on to the
well,
next thing, got to move on to the next thing. We got to do everything we possibly can. And that got us stuck for a couple years in a lot of just major quests that were both really fun and very well set up by
right,
Jacob,
yeah.
but some of them definitely set us off of what our overall goals were for the whole campaign, which
But it's
included
true
skipping over
though.
some areas.
Right, like you don't really think about it. I mean, God, how long has it been? And like, we never really thought about it until maybe a year ago. We were like, holy shit, we've been doing this for, I think at that time it was like 4 years or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. And then it was like, oh, well, I
You
guess
don't.
this is a long-term thing. Like, we may end up doing this until the day we die.
I, I would be fine with that. There, there's so many TTRPGs out there, and it also gives us all a reason to jump on and talk to each other all every week. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think one of the big things also because we talked to Jacob about this. Early on, there were a lot of like little kind of growing. I'm gonna call them growing pains that we had with D&D. One of the biggest ones was role playing. I think not everyone could get into it as much as they wanted to, or maybe couldn't like get into it as much as others. And then also we kind of had a few of us had different thoughts on just being like in college age. We had different thoughts on like how we wanted to do certain things and stuff like that. So around that time, all those kind of like conversations were happening both on screen and off screen. I remember one very specific one. Our characters were getting beat up in a fight, and I do kind of wish Corey was here for this, but I know that he was fine with talking about this. Me and him were kind of badgering Jacob. We were poking fun at him a little bit, not in like a mean way, as in like Jacob, it's you. It was us.
When Corey
as,
was drunk, he had a way of
we were
taking things a
poking
little further.
fun at Jacob as the DM, just like as you would do. You'd be like, "Oh, haha, take that DM," like stuff like that. And I think we went a little too far at one point, and Jacob got a little upset about it. And so I actually had to cut the stream, and we had to have a conversation for like 10 or 15 minutes to calm everyone down and be like, hey, like, this is not between us as people. Like, this is all in-game stuff. We need to remember we're playing a game. That kind of stuff happened a few times over, where we just had to like really ground ourselves into the fact that like just
Really, I think it only happened once.
it happened once or twice in game, and then a couple like once or twice out of game, where we just had to be like, you know, we like at the end of the day we're a friend group that's playing D&D together, and a lot of the things that we're getting in these arguments about is not that big of a deal. But that was also early on. Also, it's like I said, growing pains. Like, and the thing I was actually going to point out, Jacob getting story arcs happening. Everyone had a lot of ideas. I think after the first 2 months, 2 or 3 months, when we started playing at Michael's house and started streaming, that's when all of us kind of started really getting into our backstories and what we want to do with our characters and all this stuff. So Jacob trying to include all that and getting everyone involved as early as possible probably had some part to play in story arcs being a little shorter, or like some story arcs popping up.
Oh, speaking of that, Jacob
people.
can join.
Did he say he could?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, tell him to get in here.
Here, I'll just add him to this one.
Oh boy. Oh boy. No one look
Hello?
at us. Hello?
Did you say po' boy? Like a shrimp po' boy?
So I am driving right now,
Okay.
but I can talk.
Okay.
So yeah, I was listening to you guys when you were talking about like how like we used to get a little bit more heated with each other.
Yeah, I was talking about growing pains overall, just like role playing
Oh yeah,
arguments.
for sure.
Trying I don't know if you
Okay,
heard,
now that you mention it, yeah, okay, I do remember. Okay,
I started
speak
one or
from
two. I started one or two arguments that were pretty bad. And so did Hunter, and so did Jacob, and so did Corey.
I think the mixture of alcohol and the rule books next to everyone.
Oh
was
my
not,
god, never mind.
Yeah.
Abby also has to be involved in that conversation.
Was not.
Yeah,
Abby,
when we were first starting out, everybody was like learning the rules except for me and Caleb, and I mean even Caleb and I still, I mean none of us really know the rules down pat. But like, yeah, mixing in alcohol with that, where it's like, well, this says blah blah blah. So we would have like, we would debate like where a comma was in a spell description.
Yeah,
you know, when you're starting out and like the possibility of you dying really early on in D&D, especially as a wizard, like the threat is there. That can happen.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like there are times where you totally should rules lawyer, just because like it can fuck over the beginning of your game if you don't. I feel like, you know?
I think that's.
Yeah.
I think how we handled things then was not horrible, but will definitely help in how we handle things in early campaign.
Oh, for sure.
Well, and I think
for
becoming
all of our
like
future
fully
stuff.
grown adults has helped too.
That too,
Yeah,
yeah.
our frontal lobes are done, supposedly.
When we're in college, we're not worrying as much about all these other things in life. Now it's like when we came to D&D, it's like, oh, I'm ready to like have my like really argue for my character. But now it's like every week when we see each other, it's just an escape from like just all these other things going on, and being able to talk to each other and see each other. It's one of those kind of things. So
Yeah. Well,
Jacob,
if we're
did you have
talking about like growing pains, I don't know if we have any recordings of it, but do you remember Anzu's first voice?
Yeah.
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 I was getting a little
Could you
like,
do it? Do you think you could do it again?
can I do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
Anzu's
it was
first
that.
voice.
That was great to listen to in headphones for 3 hours.
We have to have first footage of that because your mom was one of the ones who brought that up, and that would have been our first streams.
I think
Yeah, maybe.
we realized very quickly that that was not going to be something that we wanted to entertain for that long.
Yeah.
Well, and we were worried. We
And
were
honestly,
worried that you were
my
going to
voice
fry
was
your
getting a
voice
little-
during sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, my voice was getting a little, worn out. So I was like, you know what? I am more than happy to not keep doing this. And that
Yeah.
was when I took on a British accent.
Yeah. Our in-game explanation for that was that Anzu was no longer using drugs.
Which worked out.
Is
Yeah.
actually a pretty good
Everything.
explanation.
I think
yeah.
everything worked out as we're on. Since we're on Anzu's major, like one of his most major arcs in the story, and talking about his backstory. His big backstory was the fact that when he started doing drugs and all that, he left the conservatory and all that kind of stuff, lost a lot of his power because he wasn't using it anymore. And then when he stopped using drugs, when he basically met the group, that's also the same time when Hunter changed the voice for him, and also the same time when he started regrowing his power back. So everything we did there worked out really, really well for how it was happening.
Yeah, it was a cool evolution, and I think that's true for like all of you as players. I think you've all kind of like evolved and gotten better, and like I remember when we were first starting, it was kind of hard for some of you to like go into character, and like when you would do something as your character, you would say like, I'm gonna do this, and now when you say that way now, you're talking as your character, which I think is really, really interesting. And it's been really cool to see players like grow from never playing to having a 5-year campaign. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to see some of our first stuff, we have, not even in our campaigns, we have one-shots that we did pre-campaign. So those have really early on stuff that we did. Let's get back into the recap a little bit. We'll move on from that. So Anzu had one of the very first story arcs that we kind of did. And then I think we moved into another major story arc. I think that might have been moving into Animus's first part of the Baylor's story arc, where
because at the end of Anzu's arc is when they summoned the Baylor and you made the deal.
Yeah, so I made a deal with the Baylor. I became a warlock. That is now, I had 3 names over the campaign pop up on my arm. The current one that's on there is Zygon, and that is still undealt with, and we will hope to deal with that immediately when we come back from chapter 2 into chapter 3. But yeah, we don't have to spend too long on that. It's not like a major point, but yeah, first name on my arm, it ended up being this girl who was a assistant to Mathis, who, as we've said, he's one of the most major characters. He's a government official in in Amman, and he has been one of our go-to people for information, for help, for trust in the overall campaign. I think especially end of chapter 1 through almost all of chapter 2, we're going to Mathis for as much as possible when we need help. Just because he was like our in to the government, he was our in to information, and he was our major point of reference especially before Anzu got teleport, and before I got tree stride. He was our major point for travel and communication across the entire world. So, this girl, what was her name, Jacob? Like
Tabitha.
Was it?
It was Tabitha, yeah.
Oh, Tabitha, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a fight with her. I used my first Mist of the Screeching Soul on her. Her soul got sucked in. I felt really bad, and now we have.
Yeah, he sucked her soul.
I did. I sucked her
Sucked
soul.
her soul right out of her body.
This has been an ongoing joke. Also, one of the things I built with Jacob was Mist of the Screeching Soul. It was a spell that took 3 rounds to fully go through, as long as no one interfered with the spell, and the person we were using it on was below like a quarter of their health or something. I could use the spell to basically take their soul and send it down to the Baylor. Their bodies on the material plane, as long as they are still fighting, like their soul is still fighting, their bodies still exist. Like their bodies are still fully like they're not rotting. It's like they're alive, but there is no heartbeat, there's no like breathing. Their bodies just are perfectly there, and like
Yeah, they're in like stasis.
yeah, they're in like a full stasis. So we have Tabitha's body. We have had it for 4.5 years since that happened, and that's been
Yeah, what
sitting
are we
in a
gonna
closet.
do about that? Are we just gonna like?
I think that's happening right now. We're going to fight the Baylor in China to try to get.
What do we do with her when she wakes up?
don't
Wasn't she
know.
like kind of a lunatic from what I remember?
When she lost her soul, she kind of snapped out of something and said that she was forced to do it. Similar to Rupert. Remember how when Rupert, he had the whole vampire thing, and then he was like, I had to do this because they were gonna take my family, basically. And I, as my character, did not see that, and I literally wanted to torture this man that Thea had eventually fallen in love with. So, but yeah, that's kind of
That arc was satisfying.
we'll get to that.
Oh.
We did kind of that. What was our next major thing? I think
let's see.
we went north and got the first Aramente out of the way. There's nothing too much to say there that I think is super important.
And you guys fought some gnolls. That was cool.
Fought some gnolls. Around this time, we also had a dragon fight around this time.
Yep.
That was pretty big. I think more for Braun's character, it was a slight character shift for him, where it was just more the fact that he was a swordsman and he got paralyzed, and that was the whole thing. Like, he realized he was not as powerful as he thought when you're taking out the fight.
Yeah, he got feared by the dragon's overwhelming presence.
Well, and I know Michael, like as a person, was really frustrated by that.
Oh, he was insanely frustrated.
Yeah.
I honestly think it kind of contributed to him wanting to step back eventually. Plus, life.
I think he had, I had the main thing's life, but I mean, there was definitely a lot. There was a lot of cool stuff that he was doing with Braun. And
Braun was also stupid overpowered, so.
Yeah, I think now he would not be as much.
No, not at all. Swashbucklers don't scale super well to high level.
It would be.
They're really good, like around sword. 7 to 10.
Yeah, the sword you give him would be what would do like a lot for him there.
Yeah.
Next major thing, so I went and did the first part of my Aramente. For Animus, we went up to Terra, and did the one with the Earth Aramente, or the Earth the
Ashari.
Ashari. God damn, I'm not here right now. I worked all day. We did the Earth Ashari. The Fire Ashari is where we have a real story, so I'll move past that. We went down, and I think one of the big things that happened at this time was we started learning some of Zygon's backstory. One of my favorite backstories to hear about. We learned that Zygon had a wife and child at this time.
Yep.
And he was getting information from them, and the fact that they lived over in Vasselheim across the sea.
That blew my mind. Was that always planned? Was that
Oh yeah, I can speak to that. So when Brady made Zygon, I instructed all of you, like, hey, maybe write like a page of backstory so we can kind of, have a starting point. And Brady messaged me, and he was like, I don't know what to write. And I was like, well, do you want to just like not know and have me make it up? And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. So when I was thinking about Zygon and like what kind of character he was, I wanted to like think about why he had made his deal and why his deal included that he didn't remember his life before his deal. So I was like, oh, well, he sacrificed himself as a substitute for his daughter. Okay, so I have to make a daughter. Okay, well, let's say he has a wife too. And then I was like, well, what if he was a cleric? And so like it kind of all came together. The whole him being a descendant of an angel thing, that kind of came about around when you guys met his wife and daughter. Because I was like, well, he's an ASMR, so that means that he is somehow celestial touched. So I was like, okay, well, let's do the angel thing. And I started planting that seed when you guys met his family. So like about a year into the campaign, because he started like hearing angelic music and stuff randomly.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came from. And then it culminated, geez, like 6 months ago when he got Inalu.
What a satisfying whole arc that we hit.
Yeah, I would say Zygon's arc is pretty much finished.
I mean,
I think there's
we're
one
pretty
more
much
big
finished
section.
on the campaign. To be fair,
Pretty much.
we
I mean,
literally have just finishing touches and a couple major
Yeah.
things happening.
I
But
think now instead of like the backstory informing the character, now the character is informing the story. So it's like there's not a lot of extra backstory for you guys. Now it's just what are you doing and what is happening.
yeah,
And I think Zygon is a perfect example of that. Like basically the way I'm having you, like I haven't leveled you guys as a group in months.
no,
And the main reason I want to do that is because I want like a cathartic story reason for you to hit level 20 and for it to like unlock your potential, basically. So like spoilers for later on, I guess. But like Zygon and Thea have both had like really big emotional thematic moments, and it's caused their evolution basically.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to happen. I think the next person it's going to happen to is probably Anzu, but
Wait,
we'll
am I
see.
supposed
It's
to be
either
level
Anzu or
19?
Animus.
I have a lot of ups and downs to hit first. I have to lose levels first. I have to get up to see Keyleth.
Am I supposed to be level 19 right now?
Yeah, I mean, you're close because,
You're
like,
18.
in
Whatever
Anzu's
you are,
I'm
backstory,
18
supposed to
right
be.
now.
in Anzu's backstory, he was a level 20 wizard, and then he lost everything, and it made him basically go into a drug-fueled stupor, and he
Yeah.
lost including his original spellbook. So,
Well, I just need to know if I
You know.
need to add another level to this.
If he hasn't told you, you haven't leveled. Because I tried that the other day. I was-
no, you haven't.
Going from there, so we met. There's so much that I think hopefully we can get Brady in at the end of this. I mean, we'll get everyone in at some point to talk about their characters at the end of this campaign. We have to. 5 years, guys. We'll probably be close to 5.5 by the end of this.
I think our plan is to after the final session, we'll meet one last time for this campaign and just discuss everything. Because like
depending on how
there will
who's
be
alive or what
Yeah,
people's
exactly, depending on
characters
who's
decide to
alive.
do. Maybe not.
Yeah,
everyone
like,
stays
even
with the
epilogues.
guilds. Like,
yeah,
I think a
There's a
short
lot.
epilogue is a good idea, but I don't want to do too long because I also want to possibly come back to players' characters in like the future.
yeah. I
for
think
one-shots
I
and
think
stuff.
what we'll do, like, I think open-ended endings is good.
Yeah.
My thought is that like if we ever do come back, that Anzu's dead and Hunter plays as Richter. I've been
That would
thinking
be
about that a
interesting.
lot. I think that'd be super fun to have Hunter play a dragon wizard.
That
I think that would be
or
really,
one of
really
the,
cool.
One of the guild members or something. Speaking
Yeah.
of which, at this exact same time, two very, very major things happened. The first one being Thea met Hannah Spencer, who shared the exact same disease that her mom died of, which is a very major part of Thea's story. The second major thing would be we bought the guild hall. Anzu's one of Hunter's major things that he wanted to do early on for Anzu was get him back into that role of teaching and doing something good with his life. He started the guild, the Flagon Slayers, and he bought the guild hall. Or we bought the guild hall as a group with money that we were given to help us push forward in a quest that we were doing at the time for Mathis. And so we bought the guild hall across from the Slayer's Take, which is Bronze Guild at the time. And from there, we've used the guild hall and built it up and done so many things. It was 50,000 gold at the time. It was a rundown old, I believe, hunters like guild hall basically. So it used to be a guild, and everything stems from that. Going from there, I think we played. I'm gonna put this in here because it's fun and it's dumb. We were hired to find someone's fiance off the coast of Taldore, and
I remember this. Yeah,
it was a dryad fight, and three of the members of the group ended up over in the Feywild, and three of them ended up on the beach waiting for them to get out of the Feywild. And that is the first time we ever played Go Fish in this campaign. And
probably the longest running joke.
It is such a funny joke to play Go Fish. We've turned it into a money thing now. But yeah, that all happened. That's not a major point in the story, so I'll go ahead and push forward. We ended up having three major characters join the guild. That would be Garnash, Sophocles, and Rupert. Garnash being one of the people that we found on the way out of that Feywild journey. The others actually found him. I forget who went in, but was it me?
So Braun,
Hunter,
it was Braun, Thea, and
Lockhart?
oh man, who was?
Hunter,
Yeah,
did
it
you
was
go in the
Bronthea and
Feywilds, or were
Lockhart.
you on the beach playing Go
I
Fish?
was on the beach playing Go Fish.
Okay, so it was
Yeah, it
Lockhart,
was-
Thea, Braun, and then it was me,
Yeah.
Zygon, and Anzu.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and then like that's where they met Garnash, because Garnash was in the Feywild. And
Yep.
then you guys put out an ad for like a bartender, and there were a few different NPCs, but you guys chose Soph.
Yep.
And like, here's something I can kind of talk about that like scrapped ideas that I had. So when I designed the characters that you were interviewing for your bar thing, they all three candidates had like baggage that I wanted the guild to eventually have to deal with. And then
You said
also
no to two of them.
yeah, you said no to two of them, and then you were like, "Oh, this Soph guy's cool. He's got an interesting accent. He's a cool tiefling. He fits our vibe, you know." And so my thing with Soph was that he was a charlatan and like a scoundrel who like cheated a loan shark out of money, and he was going to get the guild in trouble, and the loan shark was going to come and like attack him and capture him, and you guys were going to have to go save him. But then as the campaign progressed and like we got deeper into things, I decided I'm just going to shelve that. And if they ever want to like really dig into Soph, they can. But if not, he's just going to be the cool bartender.
Yeah.
And then when Rupert showed up, I was like, oh, he is a mole. Like he is 100% the mole in the group who's telling on them and telling their movements and everything.
Yep.
And like he would go out at night, and when he would come back home in the morning, he would have blood on his face, and you guys would be like, that's weird, but you wouldn't say anything to him. And like I was like, I don't know how I tell them that he is a vampire without explicitly having to say this dude is a vampire,
which is what
this
you
is
had
not
to
okay.
do, which is what you did
Yeah,
have to do
eventually, which is what I had to do.
Eventually, when we did the vampire fight, because vampires took over our guild hall, that is what we figured out, was Rupert was the mole. We'll get to that, because that actually that turns into one of the most major parts of the story as well. Yeah, I think definitely we did so much that you threw at us early on, me and Hunter talked about this a little bit. It definitely was one of those things where just because we were so new to the game, we wanted to do everything we possibly could, and everything you threw at us sounded so cool. So we were doing this Medusa fight, this dragon fight. We were going to fight these dryads in the Feywild and all this stuff. And we missed out on some storylines, but I think at the same time, if we were having this conversation and we had done those storylines, we would probably be saying the same thing. There's a couple fights that I remember we missed early on as well. There was a rock fight that we didn't do. Rocks being a ginormous bird, the size of a dragon.
Think big bird, but bigger.
Yeah, we missed out on that fight, and that we missed out on things, including backstories for major characters. But we also did look into backstories of other characters. I think Rupert's the most important one in that. We will get to some really fun news about Rupert later that you guys, if you've watched the campaign, know what's going on.
Oh my gosh, he's my favorite NPC by far.
I'm gonna kind of skip.
I love Rupert.
Rupert.
So Rupert joins the guild around the same time as Sophocles and Garnash. I'm gonna skip through to the end of chapter 1 so we can get into chapter 2 a little bit and just hit the major points. We end up
I don't remember when you guys go to Onoa, but in the tournament either.
The end of chapter 1. We're right there.
Okay, I was just making sure.
So we go on.
That's probably like the start of the first. That's like the first tease of the overarching narrative.
Yeah. So the big thing that happens here, we end up meeting Rebecca for the first time, Zygon's wife. He gets a tiny bit of information about his backstory, and the fact that he used to be a cleric for the Platinum Dragon, but now he has no memories of that, and he's a warlock for Frazodul. Frazodul. So, Frazor Blue, thank you. Oh my god. So then we take out Tabitha. We get to the end of this. I have a new name that pops up on my arm, Navarn. I'm trying to think of other big story arcs for other people. We've hit Thea's big story arc comes up.
You guys start investigating the black spore around then too.
Yeah, I brought up Thea's black spore thing. So that was the big disease that killed her mom that Hannah Spencer was also had at the same time. Sears hadn't joined yet. Lockdar and Braun were kind of on their way out around the beginning of chapter 2, early chapter 2. Yeah, I mean, we've hit all the major points from chapter 1. We go down to Onoa. The last couple episodes of chapter 1, which is 40 total episodes on YouTube right now. We met in person and we played for 7 hours one day, and we did all these big major tournament fights against each other. Where we did some against other people, and then we did ones against each other in teams and stuff like that. And so that one was really fun. It was really cool to get some greasy pizza, bring in some boards that we could all sit down, bring in a bunch of beer. This was the first time we really met after COVID. The campaign started, and I think about 12 episodes into the campaign, because we were meeting once a week, that's 3 months in, COVID hit us. And that sucked. We had to play over online, and I think that's one of the only things that kept me personally sane at the time. I can't say for everyone else, but going into chapter 2.
I have a small tidbit about the Onoa stuff.
Oh yeah, you did say you wanted to say something. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, so when we were doing that, well, first of all, I have a real life story and I have an in-game story. Real life story. I had to bring tables and chairs and stuff for us when we all met, and it was the middle of winter, so I was super bundled up, and I had 2 backpacks on, and I started getting stuff out of my truck, and somebody honked their engine at me and thought I was a homeless person trying to steal stuff out of the back of my own truck.
So funny.
That is probably one of the funniest times ever.
So funny. I think I called the cops on me.
I think Brady came down to help you. We're all of us are already up in Brady's apartment, and you guys come up and you told us that, and we were all dying laughing. It was so funny. You were like, someone just thought I was a homeless person and told me to not steal from this person's car or something.
Yeah, it was so funny. But then in campaign, when we were doing that, I was like, oh, I'm going to introduce the major villain in this because I know we're about to go into chapter 2. So I wanted like something big to happen.
Yeah.
And so I almost killed Zygon.
This
Oh, that
has
was
to
fun.
be. Did Zach join in chapter 1?
I don't remember if Braun was still with. No, Braun had left, and I don't think we had filled the slot yet.
I have to go look real quick if Zach was. Oh no, he totally didn't, because he would have been there.
Yeah.
He would have been there. He was there for something else, and I forget what it was. Anyways.
Yeah, but like that was such a fun time, and it was a really cool way to end that like segment of the campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into chapter 2, that's when Jacob figured out how to balance us with the people we were fighting. We won. Me and Hunter talked about this. We won everything in chapter 1. I think. Gosh, I can't remember the story, like the actual timeline of chapter 2. Really.
What do you mean?
What was the first thing we did in chapter 2? Like,
I mean, it's hard to like
I can just look
distinct
up.
1 from 2. We could probably just keep going. I don't really think we need to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what happens next after that. Hold on, let me just look at the titles of our.
Well, so that was around when we started getting into Locknar's backstory, and we found out that he was like being chased by his Goliath herd.
Yep, that was happening. That's not something we ever like really built on.
Well, so the reason that never.
Oh no, Jacob, you're missing a major point here. This is the first time we met Shavira.
Oh,
The
yeah.
first episode in chapter 2, we were on an airship over to Vasselheim, and Vasselheim was where we had a lot of stuff going on with like I think with Brady's story, with Zygon's story, as well as a little bit of Braun, because we found that dragon egg that we found in this episode. We're on an airship over to Vasselheim, and all of a sudden we see a floating storm giant castle that's being attacked by a giant green dragon. Stupidly, we got too close to it. Everything becomes a big mess. I turn into an air elemental and I'm flying around. Everyone else is on the airship. Airship gets hit by Shavira, who is one of the 5, which we'll kind of start speaking about right now. But airship goes down. We crash on the beach. We all almost like, I think all of us almost died. I was the only one who stayed alive because I was in air elemental form. So I saved 2 people out of a tree. Someone was at 0 health, and in the ocean someone was at 0 health. And I think a couple other things happened there, but major thing was we met Shavira. She is one of the 5, which is the 5 big bads of this, minus Marqueus, who we will meet in a little while. And then also at the same time, this is the same time where I believe we found the egg, which ends up being more of a bronze storyline. I'll just go over Braun's storyline real quick. I don't think we really want to talk about this too much. We don't have a ton of time. We found an egg on this beach that we were stranded on. It ended up being a dragon egg that has a 6-head or 5-headed dragon in it. It becomes like kind of very known to us that this is a god-like dragon because of the platinum, or because of the 2 5-headed dragon gods. And then all of a sudden, Braun kind of raises it, takes it to Vasselheim eventually, and that's kind of where we lost Braun in the story. Overall, though, this is a major point for Thea and Zygon.
Yeah, it is.
Zygon's building a sandcastle. Thea comes over and knocks it over. And one thing leads to another. Zygon accidentally leads her into a temple that ends up being this reoccurring dream, or reoccurring life-like dream, where she's seeing her mom die over and over for what she felt was tens of years. I don't think it was more than
it was. I think we
like
broke it
50
down.
years.
It was like 100-something years.
Yeah, it was a long time that she felt like, and when she came out of it, her and Zygon started this thing between each other where they were not cool for 60, 70, maybe 80 episodes after that. So
I would say there's still a little bit of like
I think there's
not necessarily animosity, but like
there's
a little bit
turmoil,
of hesitance.
but I think we all have a point where we've trusted each other now. There's a lot of things we had to get past to get there. We eventually had to save Thea from that. We also saved a Pegasus that we ended up naming Peggy because we couldn't find a better name. So I think ironically we named this Pegasus Peggy.
You guys are great at naming stuff. Just so you know, you're really good at it.
Peggy became a pretty major point in the story. There's not too much to say about Peggy though. Realistically,
Did he?
Like
he's important to animals.
He's the most. I think one of the most important pets. Yeah, I think he's the most important pet we have. We had a couple pets.
Do you remember Sinjin? Did you talk about that at all?
Yeah. Okay.
The little pseudo dragon you had.
Thea and me bought a pseudo dragon named Sinjin. Thea meets her family, and her family actually has. We met. Sorry, we already talked about this, but Thea met her father at that ball in the first episode. We also met her stepmother and her step siblings. Eventually, we learned that Thea's younger stepsister, is a very, very important role. Thea being a cleric of the Moonweaver. Her sister also has a very insane connection to the Moonweaver. So, when all of her storylines going on, the Moonweaver like basically starts sending visions to both her and her sister. We end up giving Sinjin to her sister and Annie, who is a Kinku like Animus, and that is like kind of like for them to like protect that animal while we're gone. The whole thing that happens there, I think, happens kind of here. We end up taking over another ship. We found a soul. The soul of Demogorgon was like, we were like flying his ship for a while. Got to Vasselheim. We end up meeting Zygon's wife here. And we get a lot more information from her, like I said. That is... we also go to the Platinum Sanctuary, where Braun takes the Dragon Child. That's eventually where the Dragon Child ends up staying overall. Then very soon after we go from Vasselheim, we meet Marquez for the first time. Zygon is walking out around by himself. While he's in the streets, Marquez comes up and stabs him from behind, killing him, basically, putting him unconscious. The only reason Zygon did not die there is because he made 3 death saving throws.
He made his saves,
and he came back to 1 HP and woke up hours later. It's probably important to note at this point, Jacob, if you want to talk about the big 5 right now, just because we got Marquez. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. We got Marquez, and we have the other 5 are pretty much introduced at this point. We were told that there were 5 players that we needed to figure out. Go ahead and get into that.
Yeah, so essentially there was like this cabal of members of an organization that initially the team thought was just trying to take over the world, but it's a lot more complicated than that. So let me pull them up here. So there was, let's see here. There was Madeline, who was a vampire. There was Marquez. There's Azanek, which is a succubus that was disguised as a member of the Derolo royal family in Whitestone. And then there was Shavira. And then, what was the beholder's name? What was his name? He's a stupid little beholder. But yeah, there was a beholder that was also part of the group. and they basically were like dividing up the world and gonna take it over. And the party, learning who they were, started taking them out. So the first one you guys took out was in Western, and it was Madeline, who was posing as one of the younger children of the Margrave, who was essentially like the head of state for the city. And she had like brainwashed them and was making them more militant and stuff like that. And then you guys eventually killed her, and when you killed her, she compressed into like a ruby and then like disappeared.
Similar to how I was talking about Cran did earlier.
Yeah, how Cran did. And then there was the Beholder. Do you remember the name of the Beholder? Because I can't find it.
I don't. I will say one thing about the vampire though.
It was a Beholder.
I don't.
It had a weird name.
Hunter, I want to hear your thoughts on this part as well. This became a kind of a point of interest for the group. And Animus and Zygon were very close at this point, and that broke Thea and Anzu kind of away between those two. Lochnar kind of went to the side with Anzu and Thea, just because Lochnar and Anzu were very close. Thea and Anzu were family. And then Anzu was also running the guild and was kind of supposed to be this leader figure for all of us, so he chose that side. This was when, right after Thea obviously went through all that shit with Zygon, Animus was going through some turmoil in his head. He was going through some shit. This is when I decided, I talked to Jacob about certain actions that could have Animus switch from a neutral character to an evil character, and we would talk about me building back out of that through other stuff happening. But with the vampire fight, we ended up destroying Madeline. She goes sucked into the ruby. Rupert was the vampire that got her into our guild in the first place. I, as Animus, was the only person who was there to stop Rupert from leaving and trying to get away. And he basically tried to explain to everyone, like, hey, they have my family and I don't know what to do, like, and all this. So Animus ended up casting a spell on him that basically tortured him while he was living for a whole week of his life. And I said if he ever came back that I'd kill his family, basically. And
yeah, it was a super lighthearted episode.
The things that were the big breaking point there was, number one, I did something that drastic without the group being involved, and number two, Thea's thought process on that was very much against going through the torture method and going through making someone suffer due to the fact that just for the whole situation, like maybe he didn't deserve it, or maybe we could have at least talked about what to go through there. Hunter, do you remember much of that part of the story?
I have a kitty.
You being evil?
No, just I think the vampire fight when I originally tortured Rupert, and that is the big breaking point for Thea. That's actually right around when she left the campaign and Abby built a new character for a little while. What do you think Anzu's thoughts were around that time, basically?
It's also, Anzu loses the guild too because of that contract.
Yeah.
That's another reason Anzu was not happy with Animus.
You know,
Yeah.
Anzu wasn't very happy. There's not really other ways to put it. I don't know. I mean, at that point, I kind of thought the whole group was just gonna go evil at one point or another.
Did you?
I mean, yeah. Like, the only other person that wasn't, outright evil was Thea at that point. And I mean, she had made an evil character, so I was like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know how
fair.
this is gonna go.
I think we did talk about this. Yeah, a lot went on right there.
That's also around when, like, Lochnar was having issues with Zygon.
Yeah. So.
Which I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that felt out of left field. I'm
Right,
not gonna lie.
because he was always talking about how he wanted to eat babies, and then
Yeah, and then he's like, "How dare you?"
I think that
loot
was
a
Corey
child's
trying.
corpse."
Corey was trying at that time to kind of build into a little more with his character.
I also think it was a little bit of an alcohol thing because Corey was pretty
Corey
deep
was one of the
there.
only ones of us that was.
He was an actual Flagon Slayer.
Yeah, that was still drinking while we played as much. Like all of us still drink like a couple beers, but college, like after COVID, I don't think any of us like really were as interested in that kind of stuff. Nothing against Corey. Love Corey. One of my favorite people I've ever met in my life. So if he ever wanted to come back and like talk to us and stuff and hang out, that'd be super chill. But we killed a death tyrant I'm seeing right here. We also met Thea's brother around this time, which I don't want to go too much into him. I don't think there's too much to really go into about
that.
him.
I can go into his creation.
Yeah, so Thea has a demigod brother. We met him on a beach.
Yeah.
Jacob,
His
what
name's
happened?
Therion. So I wanted to make a character that I could use to nuke the party if needed. And so I was like, oh well, there's this really weird like gap in Thea's mom's history. So I'll just build in that she has a half god brother. And if what I was planning on doing, this was another thing that I scrapped. I was planning on having Marqueus hire Therion's group to track you guys down and kill you, or at least capture you. And there was going to be some conflict there, but I was like, the Therion character doesn't really work super well, and he's more of like a joke than he is anything super serious. Now, he might make a comeback later on. Like, I think Abby has legitimately forgot he exists.
It'd be cool. I don't think she forgot he exists. I think that was one of the storylines that pushed past what we were trying to do. I'll say a point of it now so we don't get to it later, but we moved on to a lot of other really pressing things like that really started pushing our story forward in chapter 2. We still did these random quests, especially we gained Zach in chapter 2 as well, so we started doing a few more.
Corey left because
Corey
he
left
to culinary school, and he was
so
really busy, and
Michael left because of his job. He ended up having very early mornings Monday, so doing Sunday nights was starting to kind of put a strain on him being able to do that. And then Corey left because he ended up going to culinary school in New York, and that
thanks GameStop.
He played a little bit. If you watch those episodes, he's in New York when we're playing.
He comes in and out.
But he did eventually have to leave the second semester. Just to push us forward, we're getting into long times here now. We did go into the Underdark. We started going through. We met this death tyrant in the Underdark. Anzu and Animus specifically, together started researching the Black Spore because that was something they were researching down there in the Underdark, and we got really far into. Hunter, do you remember like what all we like really got into in there, or just mostly the overall facts?
Where?
We went to the Underdark and we researched the Black Spore. There was like this death tyrant who was like really crazy weird.
I remember diving into a well, and that was a very controversial move within the group.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That part to me was like, so Anzu and Animus, we researched the Black Spore, just because of our character builds. We were the ones who were most up to doing that. But yeah, we got a lot of information that ends up being very important to Thea's character going forward, and how we kind of like are able to start figuring out what this disease is and how to deal with it. Then we go to Pyra. I think this is one of the most important parts of the entire campaign. I think this is an insanely
you guys
crazy
talked about
point.
Traxar? You know Traxar? Don't know the name.
I am going to explain Traxar in 10 seconds, and Jacob is allowed to make 2 comments about Traxar.
Heck yeah, he's the best.
I ran a one-shot with all rogues, with Brady and Jacob and
Abby
at Abby's apartment. It is on our channel if you want to watch it.
We have.
I made it in our same world that we were playing our campaign in because I wanted Jacob to have the possibility of making it canon if he wanted to. He took the character that he played as a rogue that escaped my dragon I had created.
Your death trap.
I absolutely railroaded them on purpose. I told them I was railroading them after it. I was like, I'm sorry. I that is how I wanted this to end, but it was for the betterment of our campaign as is
He was, in
now.
fact, not sorry.
Not sorry at all.
Sorry, not sorry.
Traxar escaped as a rogue. Traxar then becomes a part of the campaign and a major part of Braun's storyline, and becomes Braun's basically like nemesis, but he's not technically evil. He's just kind of a nemesis.
He is his Vegeta to Braun's Goku, basically.
Yeah, that's a yeah.
So I will speak on Traxar. Traxar was a fun character to play when Braun was in the story because they're both Tabaxi and they're kind of two sides of the same coin. As soon as Braun leaves the campaign, Traxar loses basically all of his relevance, and he might show up later. He probably won't. And yeah, I just like bringing him up because it irritated Caleb at the moment, and it was fun.
I hated Traxar. Anyways, so yeah, I think Traxar's storyline ends where Braun, or continues where Braun's continues after he's with us, is to be fair, as the worlds keep moving when your character isn't there. Pyra, we go to the Fire Shari. All the group goes with Animus this time. He was alone for the first one. Everyone's there for the second one. We go in, we do the Fire Aramente. When that happens, the Fire Shari are attacked. They live in a volcano, so the attack is coming from the outside into this volcano. We learn of the these three women who work for Marqueus, the big bad. Jacob, you went over this a little bit, but we've got Marqueus at the top, the 5 below Marqueus, and then the 3 women below the 5. That's basically how the road goes there. And the 3 women show up there, which at the time I think were maybe level 11 or 12. Anzu, we also learn of the World Souls, which we'll get, and that'll be one of our more major conversations to have right after this. Anzu is the only one who finds this kid Kinku, who is a World Soul, and he tries to save this kid from the 3 of these women. Hunter,
his name is Atraska.
Atraska. And Hunter, from your point of view, what do you remember about this situation?
I remember I really wanted to win. Mostly because at this point we had done like a 180 on the whole winning thing. So
Yep.
we had started losing a lot. I would almost argue like up until very recently, like things have been not looking that good.
I would have to agree. It was maybe a 30-70
and
if we
so
were winning and losing.
I was determined to like save this kid. But I think the issue was we didn't quite understand how strong these 3 were. And it was very clear from that interaction that like just one of them was way above our skill level. And I don't know. It did kind of drive me into insanity as far as like trying to prepare for when the calamity happens. Like that's why you'll see Anzu, prepping the guild, making Rupert plant an army of bushes, trying to buy mercenaries anywhere he can. That's all because Anzu has died and lost so many times that he can't afford to lose again.
This is the moment where Anzu gets Finger of Death, Jacob, correct?
Yeah. No, it was Power Word Kill.
Power Word killed.
Yeah.
Anzu dies for realsies. No coming back. It wasn't an unconscious moment. Anzu's dead.
I think in the description it straight up says like,
yeah, you're dead.
You can't come back unless it's like a wish spell or something, or divine intervention,
or like I think like a greater resurrection, which is a level 9 cleric spell. Something
a little nuts, yeah.
And so that happens. And I think God, we got there, and Animus says a prayer to the shadow, or to the Raven Queen. My connection to the Shadowfell really grew in this time. And I started actually talking to the Raven Queen, who is the deity that pretty much reigns over the Shadowfell as her domain. Um, and she's also the deity of death. So Animus prays to her, and she is able to basically send Anzu back. Similarly to what they've done in Critical Role Season 1, where when Anzu eventually does die a second time for realsies, he now is bound to the Raven Queen for eternity, basically. But he gets a second chance at life for now. That was a pretty major point. How do you think of what is like from Anzu's perspective? What is his thought process on that? Like
Being bound.
yeah, like the after.
He's
the
into some pretty
afterlife.
kinky shit. Oh, that.
Are you upset you wouldn't be going to the afterlife
Bitopia.
of either the gnomes or even with your wife?
I think obviously he would be. But I mean, you have to kind of consider Anzu's kind of done everything he can to make the world better after he's gone. And I think for him, being able to basically try to kill the undead for the rest of eternity, or killing people who are trying to cheat death, which are typically evil people, by the way, is something that, like, he doesn't necessarily hate, right? Like, if he, say we lose this fight and everything ends, it's kind of built into the lore now that he will always be chasing Velshinar to kill him.
Kinda, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's something that, like, I think is really interesting about Anzu's character is, like, he is a hero ultimately. He's weird and he says just random stuff, but, like, he is a hero, and out of the whole party, I would say Anzu is probably the most heroic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and, you know, it is kind of poetic that, like, he is bound to, I guess, end Velshinar. Like, there is,
In one way or another,
yeah, there is no future where they're both sitting around. So.
Yeah, I mean, as a Lich Velshinar, also, second point of order, haven't brought this up. Major backstory of Animus. My people were completely enslaved. I was born into enslavement through my parents, who were Kinku in the Shadowfell. Velshinar, or at the time, I believe it was Erebus Incubus, he was the one who enslaved all these people in the Shadowfell. He was sucking basically the energy out of the Shadowfell, and that is how my character then left the Shadowfell, based on a couple different stories that could have happened, because I don't think it's even been made really known to me. I thought my parents sent me into the material plane as a way of escape. Jacob has shown me visions where
No.
Velshinar purposefully sent me to the material plane through means of one of his underling demons. Velshinar is the enslaver of all of my people. Velshinar is also the enslaver of many other people. Kenku, very small percentage of what was in the Shadowfell, of who was in the Shadowfell. Elves, humans, gnolls, just so many other races that you can think of. Dwarves, gnomes, like, there were hundreds of thousands of people enslaved at the end of that. And now there is a army of what is my dead people, mutated, walking through the Shadowfell. Velshinar then became connected to both Anzu and Animus. The Raven Queen, not happy about Velshinar being in her domain. Anzu, after death, will become a person or a like this, not deity, an entity that is fighting or destroying people who are trying to cheat death. Velshinar is a lich. So even if Anzu dies in this final fight, what Hunter is saying, both for Anzu's overall storyline, but also in like just in how this has to work, how the universe has to work at this current moment. If Anzu dies, he is reborn, or technically his soul goes to the Raven Queen, and now he's fighting against people who try to cheat death, which is now Velshinar as a lich. He's trying to cheat death as a lich. Anzu would most likely be sent out after Velshinar for the eternity until Velshinar is destroyed. Let's go ahead, go forward. The vampire fight happens right after that kind of stuff. Because of the vampire fight, we just talked about it, Thea leaves the group. She splits from the group. Abby makes a character called Genevieve. Genevieve is a she is a sorcerer rogue.
She is a warlock. She's a hexblade warlock.
And she's from, what was the group?
She was the head of the Clasp, which is like an assassin slash like fence slash like criminal guild, basically.
So Genevieve's with us for a while. Abby plays Genevieve out. Thea's out on her own journey to kind of like figure out what she wants to do in life now. That like her whole story is that she's this young elf who's yearning to leave the elf community and go out and like find a bigger meaning for herself, and she finds the Flagon Slayers, and this is the first major moment where she realizes there is a lot of things that can happen that can really like break some trust, and we did that. We broke the trust. And so Genevieve coming in, we do a zombie dragon fight where we learn some stuff about Shavira. Shavira attempted to mate with a dragon. The dragon died. Stuff like that.
And then she reanimated its corpse.
And that's how it's a zombie dragon. We meet Niccolo, which was Corey's second character. Lochnar also left the group for another reason. We talked about it earlier. He was already not getting along with Animus and with Saigon. We had an incident in a dungeon that really broke his point of view, and that was that Zygon was basically like messing with the resting place of children because we were trying to find things. We burnt their bodies. Afterwards, we were taking things from these people's rooms that were dead, and one of them was a child. Lochnar snapped when he saw Zygon doing this. So that broke Lochnar off from the group as well, and that is the point where Lochnar also left the group. We meet Niccolo. Niccolo comes into the group, and he is also from the same group, the Clasp, with Abby's character Genevieve. They're with us for a while. Eventually, we do a big heist, and we find the vault of the Beholder, which is one of the 5. This is the second one that we kill in the group of the 5, and this one had a hat on, or like a helmet on.
A beholder that's a big head was wearing a helmet.
Yep.
It was very funny.
When we defeated him, he got sucked into the helmet, similarly to the ruby and to the ring that we had to happen before. That's when we started putting things together, that they probably weren't dead. They were probably going to be coming back at some point. Let's go. So we're in the Beholder's lair, and we started seeing the plans for
the Zenith.
Thank you, the Zenith. That's when we first started realizing it. We had only, at that time, maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe like a little bit less, to tell the Zenith was happening, and we knew that the 5 were planning something big on the Zenith, and that is when we were now like, oh shit, there's a time limit. These guys are really powerful. We're kind of just trying to take them out one by one. We helped Genevieve take down the Clasp, and we end up leaving Genevieve and Niccolo at that point in the campaign. I think they were with us for about 12 episodes.
Yeah,
total.
Niccolo died and Lochnar killed him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Lochnar comes into the
So
group.
Niccolo puts on like a cursed helmet that makes him like rage out, and he starts running through Amon, and Lochnar's there to meet with the guild because he has a mission that he needs help with. And Niccolo runs into Lochnar, and Lochnar just full on kills him with like a punch.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was super fun.
This is the same time. This was Corey's last episode. R.I.P.
He's not dead. He's not. To be clear, he's not dead.
Corey's
Corey
not
is,
dead.
to our knowledge, Corey is alive and well.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. Corey is not with us. Very sad. Big sad. Love you, Corey. We help him go to the Emerald Outpost. It's episode 52. And then he's training to be a drunken master monk. And that is where he still is. Lochnar is becoming a drunken master. He knows Lochnar's as a character, not as Corey, knows what's going on in the world, and that group of monks has been told what is going on, and there may be a little part that Jacob could or could not add later where that Lochnar and also Braun, who's also out in the world trying to get a very powerful weapon, could be involved in the future. We also go to Singorn right after that, and we reunite with Thea. That is something that kind of becomes this thing where we just kind of like catch up on everything that's going on. We start telling, like, kind of going over the fact that there's going to be this big zenith that's going to happen. And that is when we have the meeting with the Council of Singorn, the first major meeting with world leaders. And it is, I believe, Animus and Thea who's having this conversation with Thea's father, Targarus. And we tell the council, like, hey, the final day of this of this world existing and all of the planes connected to this material plane is coming. Because there is another world. At this point, we have met the god, what's her name, Jacob?
Winnogear.
We have met Winnogear. Jacob introduced Winnogear down near the Black Spore, which is the well that Hunter was talking about. She is a god from this other existence. Mathis, we've in the next couple episodes, from what I'm talking about right now, we learn is the brother of Marcaeus. Both of them are from this other existence. And the 3 women who killed Anzu are from this other existence. And the 5 are either from this other existence or they were recruited. I think a couple of them are different. I don't remember how Jacob laid that out, but
so all of them are recruited, to your knowledge, from this world, and they were lied to about what the end goal was.
Right. We met a fake Vesper, which I think is around this time as well. The fake Vesper is the succubus who's basically filling in for the real Vesper in Whitestone. That character then basically, we go through a lot with this character. We find out she's the succubus and she's one of the 5. Once we find that out, we have like all these conversations with her about like why they're doing this and like you're not going to be able to do this and all that stuff. She ends up like kind of snapping out of it and like realizing like she needs to take the other side of this, which is our side of it, and I guess the entire world side of it. But somehow she gets cursed and her memory's lost, and we've never seen her since. So the Council of Singorn do not believe Thea and I when we try to have this conversation. That is when we have another huge loss for the group. I'm going to have Hunter talk a little bit here. We're in Singorn. We're staying at Targarus' place. While Thea and I and Targarus are all away, they're at the manor, or the mansion that Targarus has in town. And the group of them, once again, picks us off. And it's like another like group versus one situation. Hunter, what do you remember from that?
I mean, this was kind of wild from what I remember. Mostly because it happened in such a public setting, and like the Singorn Council was just being so fucking stubborn.
Well, they are elves.
They are. And like even now, they still haven't really expressed interest in helping us. even though it's probably too late. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just one of those situations where like the bureaucracy has kind of killed um, like the peaceful life for everyone and hasn't like taken enough action, and that led to us getting in a crazy amount of fights, and a lot of them got really bloody.
That's when Sirius gets abducted into the what he thinks is going to be a kinky sex dungeon, and is actuality a kinky murder dungeon.
No,
Yeah,
I think
well,
that's-
and
is
this
that
ends up
later?
leading into
That's
the
when
bomb
Singorn.
too. I
That's when
mean,
you guys are in Singorn.
this I think this really kicks off our losing streak.
Yeah, I mean, we
we're
hit
like-
losses, and this one really cemented it.
Yeah, we don't really do well here, and we don't really do well whenever the bomb goes off too. Because when the bomb
No.
goes off, I think it was at a quarter of its power, which is still enough to like wipe out half the city.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so we all split, basically. A couple of us went to Vasselheim. I think you were able to teleport some people out, and I was able to teleport some people out. I teleported out to the Shadowfell. I talked to the Raven Queen. There's a major point there for me and my storyline. Sorry, my allergies are so bad today. I just can't breathe right now.
You're fine.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens here. This is around when I think we start. Did we learn about the World Souls here, or was that a little bit later?
That was a little later.
I think it's a little later, but it's around this time. I mean, stuff starts condensing too, to where like this happens and this happens and this happens and
All
this
right,
happens.
I'll jump
and it
to the
kind
next
of like
part
all moves through.
then. From here,
And if you want more detail, watch the campaign.
Yeah. Just to jump into like the next part, we end up realizing we got to start figuring some shit out and how to destroy these guys. So we go and we hunt them down, and we go to the Frostweld, and we learn that they are creating clones of all of us, basically. And we destroy those clones. Then we also end up fighting this Elder Brain, which then Shavira comes in to this Elder Brain fight. Somehow we almost defeat one of them, and then Shavira sucks in the Elder Brain and like eats it, and then becomes an Elder Brain or an Elder Dragon, like an Elder, like a whatever.
It's weird. It's a weird name. Usually when this happens, it's that they infect a dragon with an illithid tadpole, but this is reversed.
Yeah.
To where the dragon absorbed the Elder Brain power.
Around this time, people we thought we could trust are starting to switch sides, either for reasons that are like they're being like taken to the other side, or just because like they're choosing to go to the other side. Anzu's son being one of them. We had a whole thing where we tried to talk to him, and it seems like he's kind of in the middle. He's doing it because he kind of has
Oh yeah,
to.
there's a lot. I can't go super deep into that because I think that's going to come up soon in the campaign. But there is a whole reason why Richter turncoated for a little while, and it has to do with Linares.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Next point we get to, we're coming up to the end of this. We're getting a lot closer. This is taking a little longer than I thought, but it's much
we
needed.
ramble. We talk a lot and we ramble.
We're staying on points is the thing.
We're doing pretty good. Caleb, good job.
Anzu pulls from the deck of many things for the first time.
Oh my god.
And he gets a card that sends him to a random location on a random plane of existence.
Why did I pull that card again?
For fun.
Because we were losing so bad.
That's true.
We were losing. We had lost multiple fights. We lost that
really, it's
big
your fault,
fight.
Jacob.
I hear that.
You made us
opportunity.
go spiral into depression.
And then your son switched sides, and you were like, "Let me pull from the deck." You pull from the deck. You go to a different random plane. Hunter then creates his second character.
Oh my gosh, Mo.
I just like
Mo.
to say, I would just like to say, I love that the deck of many things is like our antidepressant pill.
It really is.
Absolutely.
I think it's hilarious too because it's like it could easily just kill you, and there's a possibility, and it's very funny to me.
Anzu or Hunter creates a character called Mo, who I believe is a paladin who worships these twins that are in his head.
Yeah, he has mental health issues.
I believe, I
And
am
they
not
might be
sure.
real.
I am not 100% sure. I am going to explain a little bit about how gods work in D&D. When enough people pray to somebody, an entity, a person, an entity, a thing, that thing then gains power. And the more following you have and the more powerful you become, you can't just be a nothing. You also have to have power in yourself as
Have you ever
that
seen a
entity.
picture of the twins?
I have,
No.
yeah.
No, yeah,
I'll-
Send it to me. I'll look at it real quick. Basically,
Also-
though, so when you give power to something, it is now able to give power back out. And so if the twins are this thing that are able to basically like somehow infest Mo's mind and a lot of other people's mind, then they gained power doing that. I have no idea. Send it into this chat, Hunter, also, so that I can pull it up. I don't know what the twins are. We never figured it out. I know that we did figure out a cure for the black spore, very major part for Thea's storyline here. We found like some sort of cure that slows it down or like fully, like I think we have ended up building up to getting rid of it completely throughout like this episode and like maybe 20 episodes forward, but I'll just talk about it now. We got rid of the black spore. Jesus fuck. Hold on, people need to see this.
They're awesome. They're really, really cool.
People need to see this.
Hunter, do you want to
There's
talk about the
twins.
origin of Mo as a character? Do you want to, like, as copyright free as we possibly can?
There is a skit from a very popular group of.
You can say it's based on. You don't.
It's based
not...
on Key and Peele's skit of the Ultimate Fighting match, where there is a very unhinged wrestler who takes his job a little too seriously. Now, this being said, the guy that they're portraying, he's like extremely religious and is looking for a blood sacrifice in the fight. And
that's
was
kind
my
of Mo's whole
inspiration.
deal. That's like Mo's whole
Right.
deal.
And that was Mo's whole deal. And I was also thinking, like, I just want to get someone who's completely different from Anzu, because this might be the only time in a while.
What I think is also really funny is like that character literally Hunter pulls from the deck, it gets rid of Anzu, and we're like, dude, next week
Yeah.
you got to bring a character. Like we can't just have you sitting here unless you just want to sit here.
Truly.
But like, and then when you guys went into Bitopia, I think that is really when like Zach finally clicked with Cirrus as a character.
Cirrus, so let me say this real quick. Cirrus joins the campaign, I think maybe within 20 episodes of this happening, right around when Michael leaves. Corey's still kind of playing with us at the time. This is when Corey's kind of being also slightly phased out through work and school, as we talked about.
Life.
Yeah, just overall life as it goes. And that was one of the biggest things we talked about when we started this campaign. We always said no one is going to be upset if life takes you away from this. If you need to, like, just let us know. But Sears, Zach, he had been a huge part of just helping us grow as a channel for so long. He was very into. He watched every episode. Wrote down questions about every episode, and then asked us those in the weekly recaps, because we tried to do weekly recaps for a while, but realized they weren't really worth the time and effort, like, for the most part at this moment in time. But Zach ends up joining the group, pretty much knowing the whole story, creating Sirius, and really fitting in. But yeah, I think Jacob's right. While we have Mo, Hunter's playing this crazy character. Animus and him don't get along at first, and I'll talk about it in a sec. That kind of gets to a better point, and we need to check on Mo at some point. Mo tries to...
Better point is...
At one point, Mo tried to capture and sacrifice Animus to the twins
Would you like to describe how he tried to
I walked
capture-
into my room one night, and from the corner of the top corner of my room, Mo jumps down and throws a net on me
Like a spider monkey.
like a spider monkey.
I would just like to add, if he would have caught you, he would have tried to sacrifice you to the twins.
Absolutely.
Oh, I would have loved to see that because there is a lot more implication
At this time,
in that.
at this time, we had a major talk with Mo. Like Sirius is involved, D is involved. We're like, dude, you can't fucking do that.
Not cool,
Zygon
dude.
has
No blood sacrifices in the guild hall.
Zygon has a major moment here where he sees this vision of an angel and a demon colliding, basically, in his head. That we will get to in a second. With Mo, we go to Bitopia. We
Where everyone
save.
becomes a gnome.
We all become gnomes in Bitopia. It's really fun. We play these mini games. We end up meeting the Garl, Glitter Gloom, Glitter. Yeah, that's right. Garl, Glitter.
Gloom? He's an old deity from like
The last time
second
is
edition.
second edition. He's actually in the next campaign we play. I have added him to the list of deities. Glitter Gold.
Garl Glitter Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garl Glitter Gold.
Think
I
like
do have a question,
Rumpelstiltskin kind of character.
We save Anzu. Next, we kind of say goodbye to Mo. Animus and Mo. After the conversation with Mo, after Mo fucking tries to sacrifice Animus, we had a little bit of a conversation. We had a little bit of talk. There was a little bit of building with Mo. And then over the next couple episodes, we kind of like get past that. And then Mo finds, I believe, Pelor. We get him to go past the twins. We get him out of the mindset of the twins, and he learns of Pelor, and that is where we left Mo. Is instead of being a paladin of the twins, he switches. He loses the twins that are taking over his mind, and he is left in.
I wouldn't say he's lost them. You could go back, and he may have slaughtered half the town.
That's fair. Where we left him, we believe.
Here's a fun part. Do you know how Mo would just like sneak off sometimes? Do you want to know what he was doing?
I know what he was doing.
Oh God, I've never heard.
Take a guess.
Is he sacrificing people?
He was eating people.
What the?
He's a cannibal. Yeah. That's how he does blood sacrifice. He's a cannibal. He was gonna eat you, dude.
Yeah.
What the
He's gonna have-
fuck?
Mo
What
was
the
going
fuck,
to eat you
guys?
if he caught you.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! And I put him in a temple of Pelor.
Yeah, you did do that, didn't you?
Anyways, where
You
we
put the
left
fox
off,
in the hen house.
there
I
was
am
some.
curious, Jacob. What were you planning on doing with the twins, or still planning with the twins?
I was really split on whether they were real or not. And I think if we had like years more, or like if we ever come back to this campaign setting, right? What I was planning on doing was they are 100% real, but they are not gods. They're essentially like high level wizards who are trying to achieve godhood, and they've like found a few acolytes that they've essentially like put like really advanced spells on to make them think. But I think that was my initial thought. I don't know if I want to make them deities in the campaign setting, because deities are like really like weird in the Taldore and Exandria campaign setting, where they're like sealed off from the rest of the other planes. And so like I would want the twins to actually be characters. I thought about having them be like the main villains for if we ever did another campaign, because I really like their designs and I think they're really interesting, and
Yeah.
I think
Well,
exploring.
I mean,
that would
we
be kinda
will do
cool.
another campaign. It's just depending on.
I don't know
if-
if we'll. I don't think
If
we'll do this
you
campaign
want,
setting.
yeah, I was about to say, my
'Cause,
campaign
like-
setting is my build. Jacob is
Yeah.
building his own
I'm working
campaign
on
setting.
one right now.
It's
yeah.
going to be dependent on if he wants to reveal that in our campaign, which none of these campaigns will go 5 years because we've already decided.
Hopefully.
I don't think 5 years. I think if we hit over 1 year,
I was
we gotta
thinking about
find a
that.
way.
I was thinking about that. I was like, man, if this next one goes 5 years, I'll be 30.
No, it won't. It won't. It won't.
Like, what?
Okay. Going forward, so Mo was supposedly in a state where we had found a way. I think Thea or maybe Zygon, someone found a way to get the twins out of his head, and he was extremely thankful for it when we left him. Whether the twins got back into his head or not, that's something we have to see. But as of where we left him, they are out of his head. He was accepted by the Temple of Pelor. There's a very high level priest of Pelor who kind of said they'd watch out for him and all that kind of stuff. Going past that, we have Anzu back. So now we have the group back basically.
This is when stuff starts really rolling too.
Yeah, we go to Marquette. When we go to Marquette, we're basically sent there because we're trying to find one of the
Vestiges of divergence.
Is this where we find one of the vestiges?
Yeah, you guys start looking for the vestiges around here.
We found Vox Machina's
research
house. What was their place called?
Yeah, they had a keep outside of Amon called Grayskull Keep, and in our campaign, it's been like 200 years or 200 plus since their exploits, which would also now retroactively also mean like 150 years after campaign 2 and 3. But that we operate in a canon where only Critical Role campaign 1 is canon and everything else is not. Mainly because I don't feel like having to keep up with 500 episodes. So they find Grayskull Keep, and it's got a bunch of information on where there's other vestiges of divergence.
Yep.
And so, like, that's been a key thing for the party.
We finally got the last vestige recently, so
there's actually one more that you guys forgot about.
Yeah, but I think we decided we didn't need to go for that.
There is one inside Amon.
Right.
That's in like a labyrinth that they just can't. They tried to figure out and they can't figure it out.
I think around this time, so we go to Marquette, we get some more information. We go out in the middle of Marquette, we go to this oasis. In this oasis is where apparently Marqueus and the 5 and the 3 originally set up a place to start building this army, or one of the places they started building this army. And so we find these tanks full of shadow creatures, which is what you can only assume is what is part of the energy they were drawing from other planes of existence, including the Shadowfell. That energy was then probably composed into these shadow creatures. And we found tanks and tanks and tanks of them, and then a lot of broken tanks of them, and we went underground. We found an observation area, and then we fought these demi-liches that were trying to like basically protect this area, even though this area was very much not as well used anymore. And then from there, we end up going back to Amon, and then while we're in Amon, so Linares becomes a bigger part of the story. Jacob brings the Linares back into this. Linares dies through Hunter's Anzu's backstory. Anzu fights Velshinar because Velshinar turns evil.
This is gonna be a really long description.
I'm gonna say the easy part. You add in what you want to, but try to make it kind of short. Anzu and Velshinar fight. Linares gets in the middle of it to stop them from destroying each other and the entire area around them. You're talking about two people who are at the top, the peak. Anzu's level 20 wizard at this point. So fighting a level 20 wizard right next to a school and very close to a city, the damage output is fucking insane. So Linares gets in the middle. She stops the fight. Velshinar disappears. Linares dies. And Linares has been dead since. Right around this time, we bring Linares back. And we get a lot of information from Linares because she's seen things from being brought back to life that's very important in the fact that of what's going on in our world's existence right now. Hunter, what do you want to add to that?
So it's all big and complex, everything, but Velshinar is a big bad guy, and to try to stop him. But
he's the last member of the 5. I couldn't think of the last member, and it's Velshinar.
I mean, Jacob can jump into, but yeah, there's a big fight. Now there's a statue where that fight was. Oh, Anzu wished that Velshinar was dead as Velshinar was leaving the battle. That's kind of a big one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well,
now
he
he's
kind
a
of got his
lich.
wish.
No, he
Yeah,
did
He
get
did
his wish.
get his wish.
Wish
Yeah, he
just
kinda got
works.
it.
But I don't think he realizes that his wish turned him into what he is.
Well,
Yeah.
he does when we get to the point where I'll explain it. But keep
Yeah,
going.
so when Hunter was designing his character, it was very much like he had something and then he lost it, and I was like, okay. And then he's like, I want him to be like a former professor and kind of work with all that. So I was like, okay, well, Hunter, like, did he travel? Well, also, okay, so one of Anzu's key moments is he is actually at the battle when Vecna was storming Vasselheim in spoilers for Critical Role Campaign 1 ending. Vecna storms Vasselheim with a resurrected like Titan thing. It's insane. But in our backstory, we have said that Anzu was part of the resistance that was fighting there.
As a minor,
So, as like a little tiny wizard.
he was maybe level 10 at the time.
Maybe. And then he has he had a group. So we were like, okay, who was in his group? So then we made this group. And then I know when we were creating Linares, we asked Abby, like, hey, would it be cool if Anzu was actually your uncle? And she was like, I mean, it sounds interesting. And then we went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, that
And-
was one of the things that Abby didn't fully see coming in that episode. And I remember that shock of like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's so funny.
But then I was like, okay, I have to explain why she's not here. And then like one of my big things is I want the characters to have a reason to be fighting. And so like I was like, oh, well, if Velshinar was part of why Linares died, then that ties in Thea and Anzu instead of just Anzu. So like it added layers, and I really like Velshinar as a character. We haven't gotten to have him in a lot of scenes.
I think that's good though. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think less is more with his character. But like, I mean, he's terrifying.
He also ties in Animus, enslaved his people, enslaved
and
Shadowfell.
So that was also a retcon kind of, because I was like, okay, so in Anzu's backstory, Velshinar leaves, and Anzu thinks he's dead. Okay, well, what if he fled to the Shadowfell? Okay, well, if he fled to the Shadowfell, then he's been in the Shadowfell for a while. If he's been in the Shadowfell for a while...
Also, if he ended up in the Shadowfell, he can be dead. If he's dead, he can also bring himself back as a lich.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, well, if he winds up in the Shadowfell, then that ties into Animus's backstory. So, like, have they crossed paths? And then I was like, well, what if he was actually the reason that Animus exists?
Yep.
So, it was really interesting, and, like, I like the idea of, like, because of Anzu's actions, what happened to Animus happened. And because of what happened to Animus, the entire plot of the story is happening. So, like, we discussed this off stream, but we were like, who do we think is the main character? It is Anzu. And if it's not Anzu, it's Thea.
Yeah.
Everything that Anzu did when he was a young adventurer has come to roost now. Like, all the stuff with Velshinar, all the stuff in the Shadowfell, the invasion army, all of it is partially due to Anzu. I think that's really interesting.
When you talk about storylines, it's crazy because it's like, this is something we will get into. So when we're a full group, but I just want to put a little bit in now. It's like you said, Anzu, a heroic leader who got another chance to be that again. Thea,
I fully believe Hunter is going to try and kill Anzu.
No.
I fully believe he will try.
Don't say this. Don't say that.
What do you mean I'm going to try and kill Anzu?
Thea,
heroic sacrifice.
Thea being somebody who was very confused, didn't know what she was doing. Her storyline became extremely important. Zygot, his storyline became one of the probably the most like fun to connect with, fun to watch unfold through the years. And those three, like, their storylines have, like, minus like a couple small moments from other people's storylines when Braun and when Lochnar were here. A little bit with Sirius. Zach unfortunately joined a little bit late to be able to get
It's
like
so late into the campaign,
it
it's
was,
hard to build
and he
it.
knows this. We've talked about it. There are some storylines for him, and there's really fun stuff is really cool to see him interact with. But it's not going to be the connection that you have from storylines that you're going to get from, especially these main three. I have had my storylines. I have an overarching storyline that we haven't finished, and that's probably going to be something we talk more about at the end of this all. But that's also like I don't think it's been as important as these three, and I'm totally fine with that because watching the other three is insane. So, what?
Okay, there's ads running for the stream right now. There are Coke flavored Oreos and Oreo flavored Coke.
Why?
I'm alright.
Yeah, I don't think I need that. Anyway, like, what I think is also interesting is, like, Animus's story has gotten beats throughout. Like, he hasn't had an arc to himself. His has gotten, like, here's a little breadcrumb here, and here's a little breadcrumb here, and here's a little breadcrumb here. And I think that's interesting.
I think me and Jacob talked about this at the very beginning.
Jacob and I.
Sorry, thank you. God damn it. Jacob and I liked the storyline I built, but I also was completely fine with taking more of a support role. One of the reasons I picked Druid originally is because this was a little bit before I realized, like, Druids are really overpowered at like early on, and then kind of in the middle, and then at the very, very end. But other than that, they're support. They're the support character when it comes to fights. I'm not putting out a lot of damage. I'm not putting out any high output of damage anymore. I can tank now that we don't have Lochnar, which is also something that's good. But even then, it's just like, with my storyline as well, I told Jacob, like, I am okay if my storyline is something that's just kind of tossed in there. And it was so worth it to watch everything that has happened and everything that's come. Like I said, that I think that's something we get into with everyone when we have that full conversation. So we get into after this whole thing with the Demi-Lich and finding the shadow creatures, we go back and Linares is brought back from the dead. We get research from that we found from I believe from that place in Marquette that Linares is able to help us with. We're able to narrow down. We're starting to really figure out, okay, there's a Zenith coming. There is some sort of other world, other existence that is out there that is now trying to converge with our world and basically steal all the magic from this world and basically destroy it as we know it. There's all these creatures that are involved with it. They've created tons of clones both for themselves and for us for some reason, which we eventually learn they're able to control these clones with different runes because there's runes on their body. That we'll talk about in a sec as well. We get into an area where we see the first clones of Zygon. There's 3 of them that attack Linares, Anzu's wife, who's up in this wizard tower. They have a tower up in the cloud district of Amon at this time, and they send these Zygon clones to go attack them. That's all some big stuff. I think one thing I'm just going to touch on, we've added people throughout our time to the guild hall. There's some fun characters, don't need to talk about them. The main one, Anzu brought in a shit ton of kobolds at one point, and they went
Heck yeah, the best characters.
They went from 50 kobolds to thousands of kobolds that are currently digging.
There's a whole
under
city under the guild hall,
building an underdark
Dude, I'm
city.
telling you, Anzu is obsessed on the idea that he needs as much help. Because, look, this is my point of view, right? Every single government that we have tried to ask for help has completely turned us down. Either that or they can't help us because they're more worried about themselves.
Yep.
So, I mean, you look at it and it's like, well, what can we do? We can get the kobolds, we can get the bushes. I want to try and actually hire some mercenaries, which I probably just need to talk to Jacob about that after this. But I mean, that's really all we got.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think getting as much help as possible is something we tried for a while, and we hope.
Well, and even the Ashari, I mean, they're basically done now.
Yeah, they're
The
sending
Ashari, the Fae, they're all dead.
the Ashari are going to send people that they can, but they're not going to be a major point of this battle for us. Yeah, I mean, going into the next part, we get from this point, we so there was a kobold that died. Kobolds die very frequently. They're like houseflies. They die within like a couple weeks of conception. Basically,
They're basically like a possum.
they're like
Like,
rabbits.
they're about a possum.
Yeah,
You know.
they just a lot of them come.
Well,
and
so the
some of
reason
them die.
they reproduce so quickly is because normally they get eaten by their dragon overlord, and you got to
Yeah.
replenish them populations.
Right. So there's a lot of them. One of them dies. We have a procession for it, and it ends up that the procession is preparing this kobold as a meal, and we eat this kobold.
Got to eat it.
It's super messed up. I just want to point that out. It's really funny. We end up going into one of the funniest points in this campaign. That is the High Society Hotel. That is the name
Oh
of
my
the episode.
gosh.
Episode 86, High Society Hotel. We go to Craghammer to attempt to talk to the dwarf houses of Craghammer. There's 5 of the houses that we're trying to say, hey, there's a war coming and we need your help, because Craghammer happened to be right on the plane of the Zenith, and we believe that was one of the 2 points where it was going to happen. So we end up in this hotel for like 2 episodes.
Quick PSA to your DMs:
Didn't exist.
if you have a party that is really big on shiny things and funny things, who do it for the bit, be mindful of creating something that is full of shiny things and bits.
It was so funny. We got into this hotel. Man, I think that's one I'm just going to say you have to watch the episode. If there's one you want to go out and watch, that's just like watch through
If you want to get the vibe, the usual vibe of the campaign,
yeah.
good episodes.
Both episode 86 and episode 87 all together is 3 hours. It's an hour and 13 for the first one, an hour and 49 for the second one. But yeah, we end up in Craghammer. Overall thing, Lanera sends us on a quest to find the Staff of Lolth. While we're also up there, we talk to the houses of Craghammer. At the end of all the questing we do for them, as well as talking to them and the government of Amon on what we can do to help the houses of Craghammer, end point, they will send us 5,000 magic or shields that we are able to add magic to, which at this point in the campaign has already happened. They've sent 5,000 shields basically for the front line of the attack in Amon. There will be an attack on most of the cities that we know of, and Amon now has 5,000 shields from Craghammer, which are dwarven built shields, and they're also magically induced to be able to be magically resistant, and that is for the frontline fighters that will end up doing that, which was a really, really big point. But they could not send any people. They are going to protect their own place back in Craghammer. We then go to the Underdark. When we go to the Underdark, we're looking for the Staff of Lolth. While we were down there, we find a Dark Carnival. Another episode I think it would be a really fun one to go back and check out. It is episode 91, the Underdark Carnival. Basically, though, after that episode, we end up in this festival in the Underdark, where they're doing this festival to Lolth. Through a bunch of stuff happening and a bunch of interactions, we are able to stop these other people from getting the Staff of Lolth. They are these bad guys who are what god, Jacob? They are the
Oh man,
it's
it's
the demon from the Nine Hells.
Oh, Grazit?
No.
No, it
Major,
wasn't
the
Grazit.
overarching demon from the Nine Hells. The demon. Starts with an A.
Asmodeus?
Asmodeus. There is a group. There's a group of Asmodeus down in the Underdark. They try to kill the priest and her sister, basically. Through that, we get the Staff of Lolth. Sirius is running the Staff of Lolth throughout 3 episodes, or like throughout 2 episodes, all the way up this road. He ends up dying. Sirius dies here. Full on dies. The others escape from this prison. We end up getting to that place where Sirius is dead. the staff of Lilith has entered the priestess's hands. We realize this is probably not good, and that her little sister is basically being kept prisoner with all the stuff that's going on here. She's not for all this stuff. Thea luckily is able to bring him back through resurrection. Jacob plays it through what Matt Mercer's created, which is a much harder resurrection than just he's resurrected.
Yeah.
That's another one where I'd say go watch the episode if you want to really understand that. We end up in an Underdark mushroom farm as kind of like a base place, where we tell this girl, like, hey, we got you out of there. She's a little upset, but overall she's happy that we kind of saved her life because she was going to be sacrificed. We get a ton of big weapons while we're down there. I learned how to create some stuff as Animus. Then we go to what is Zygon's major point. This is only 20 episodes ago, so we're right up to where we are now. We go to
Catch
the Gray
up, Flagon heads.
We go to the Gray Valley.
I don't know what our fans should be called.
No. That we go to the Gray Valley. This is where one of the vestiges is. While we are there, Zygon has some sort of like kind of connection that is happening here. While we're there, we go down into the Gray Valley. We make it into this underground tomb. We find the vestige, and then Zygon has this moment of being able to face one of his ancestors, who is an angel. And this angel, I believe, fell in love with a demon.
Well, so okay, I will give you their backstory. So neither of them started out. They were both just soldiers during the Calamity, and so basically what happened is the Calamity happens. Inalu is a paladin of the Platinum Dragon and becomes his champion, and then her husband, who they had known each other since they were children. What was his name? Let me pull it up. Where is it? I can't find it right now. That's annoying. Okay, I can't find it right now. But anyway, so the two of them were not angels or demons. One was a tiefling, one was a human. And then as the Calamity went on, he makes a deal with one of the fallen gods for power to try and save people. He gets tricked. He becomes a demon. She gets blessed by Bahamut, becomes an angel. The two of them continue to fight. They have a child. And then bingo, bongo, boingo, the sole surviving descendant is Zygon.
Yeah, and Zygon...
Technically his daughter, too. But
we've now found Zygon's overarching story here. I think this is also something we leave the majority of for later, but Zygon's overall story has now been revealed. He was a cleric, and he was married to Rebecca Spruce, who is a paladin of the Platinum Dragon. They have a daughter together. Their daughter's showing these kind of signs of being connected to this other world, and Frazer Blue, he tries to take advantage of this power, and the pact that he tries to create is actually originally with Zygon's daughter, and the only reason that Zygon becomes or gains a pact and leaves all of his Platinum Dragon stuff behind is because that is the only way that Fraz gives him out of that situation. He says, you can sign a pact with me and your daughter is not going to be involved anymore. And he loses all his memories. He has no connection to his family anymore as well. So that is what we learn in the short story. That's all you really fully need to know about Zygon, I think. Other than that, there's a lot of stuff that you can go back and watch. But yeah, in this episode, he ends up learning so much. He learns he's an ancestor, and he chooses in that moment to lose his pact with Fraz and re-sign a pact as still a warlock with this angelic ancestor that he has. So he is still a warlock. He's, I believe, a level 18 warlock and a level 2 cleric now, or a level 17 warlock and a level 3 cleric, one of those two.
he's level 3 because he has to be level 3 in order to become a war cleric.
Yeah. We end up going to the Abyss because of this. We go to the Abyss and we go to
Because
court.
he gets sued
He gets sued by
for
Fraz.
breach of contract.
We go to the Abyss and we go into court, and this is really funny. It was such a stupid fucking thing that happened, but it's so funny. Anzu is one of the defendant's attorneys, I think.
Yeah, Anzu is deputy defense attorney, and Animus is deputy defense attorney, and the head defense attorney is Callum Bow, which is, I don't know if you guys ever caught this. I know Brady did.
We did. We talked about this.
Okay.
From
Callum Bow is based off Columbo,
Yeah.
the detective show Columbo. I had watched so much Columbo at this point during when I was watching Columbo almost every day because my mom got really into it, so I was watching a ton of Columbo, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then it was just really fun to play. But the thing I love about demons is that they're all super litigious. I think it's really, really funny to make demons very legal minded and no, you signed a contract and our contract states, and basically making them lawyers.
Yeah.
And it reflects modern day politics. But anyway, everything is so litigious. But as we go through that, I was like, I want the threat to persist even in the Abyss. So that is when you guys first physically encounter Velshinar.
Yep, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Jacob, go into that. We're down there. The way we basically get to Velshinar is after the courts are ended. We go in and we talk to the judge, and because Velshinar actually comes into the room, and Animus isn't in there
and kills a bunch of people. He kills demons.
Animus is
full on kills
not
them.
in there for this first interaction with Velshinar. It is just Anzu.
Yeah,
I mean
so,
everyone. It's everyone, but it's Anzu.
Yeah.
When it comes to our backstories connecting, I wasn't in there.
Yeah, so Velshinar shows up in the courtroom and kills literally everyone but the players.
Yep.
And some the lawyer, some of the other people, but all of the bystanders die because he is such a strong lich that he can kill demons with his presence.
Yeah.
And so here's something that you guys didn't know. Velshinar was not physically there.
No, you told us.
He was never physically there. He was projecting basically.
Yeah. And that actually,
and that's also when you guys meet Gregorian too.
I was about to say, so the next part that happens there is we end up all having to go through all these rooms, basically, where we're stuck in this circle. We all go in and we see these horrible visions of what's happening, and it turns out these visions are what's actually happening in real life. That episode is called, I think, Many Rooms of Present Horror is what I named it.
That's a good one. I like that name.
I've got some really fun names that I was really proud of.
He's proud of him. He's good. Guys, leave a comment. Say, Caleb, good job on this name.
So in that episode, everyone goes through seeing so Sirius sees his parents being stalked by this giant monster. Sirius's main storyline is the fact that he came to the material plane to help hunt these monsters, these giant not supposed to exist monsters. Think about what D&D monsters are. Think about what should not exist in D&D.
Yeah, there's been this side plot that I've been doing where there's hybrid monsters, and there's a evil scientist dude creating these hybrid monsters, and they've popped up here and there.
And one of them destroyed his town.
I was like, I wonder if I can somehow tie this in, because I knew that Zach was playing a ranger, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if I can tie this into this side plot that I've been doing. That I think would be a really fun one shot for you guys to after all of this is done, you're like, hey, remember that weird dude that was stalking us with all these weird hybrid monsters? I think it'd be a really fun one shot or two shot to do a little you guys finally find this guy. But anyway, so that was Sirius's introduction into the campaign. And then when we get into these visions, I know one criticism that I think you could probably levy against me is that I give you guys a lot of exposition visions, where it's yeah, this is a thing that's happening, and you guys have these visions.
I don't think it's a criticism, though. I would not criticize this.
My thought is magic is super pervasive, and magic itself is a living creature. So to me, the reason you guys are receiving these visions is because the the fabric of magic itself knows what threat is coming, and it's wanting to like inform you all of what's going on.
And the
And
weave
then-
also knows as the
Yeah,
weave
the
is...
weave knows what's going on.
So-
Now, they've never discussed if the weave is canon in the Exandria campaign, but like to me, I really like the idea of magic itself being sentient. I
Isn't
think
Mistra?
that's super interesting.
Mistra's
Yeah,
in-
Mistra.
If
Mistra's
Mistra exists, the weave would almost
I
have
don't
to exist.
know if Mistra exists in the Exandria stuff because I don't know if they're like if they've legally been able to do that because Mistra is Wizards of the Coast.
Right, but they have so many other things from
Yeah,
like
I don't know. I never really looked deep into it.
before they did all the legal stuff, while they were still running it as a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
I think Mistra.
Well, they
was
also
part of
ran
it.
into a little bit of issue because they were originally a Pathfinder campaign. But anyway, that's not here nor there. I love the idea that magic is sentient and magic is like, oh, this group is the best shot we have. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try and help them as much as I can, which is why the visions are usually either really vague or they just randomly cut
Right.
because it's like it can only go so far. And so like everybody has visions of like your family's being murdered. And this is where I put in Rupert
Yep.
getting attacked by
Rupert gets
Marqueus.
attacked.
Rupert and Thea's dad Targaryen get attacked by
Linares
Marqueus.
gets attacked, and this
Linares
is...
gets attacked and chased by... She's getting chased by Velshinar.
Yep.
Like, that is what's going on. Because Velshinar
And
has a
then
thing for Linares. It's a whole
Yeah.
other thing. And then
Cyrus's parents are being
Cyrus's
tracked
parents are
down
getting
by-
attacked by a giant monster. And then Zygon's wife gets abducted, gets kidnapped, and then that comes back in the most recent episode. And then Animus is the only one that does not have visions of his family. And he has
mine's
visions of
kinda
this.
fucked.
Yeah, he has visions of this weird, like, skeletal creature, Kinku thing that literally, like, essentially rips him from the inside out. And that is... I don't know how deep I can go with this, but basically it is a warning of what is going on specifically with Animus. Which
Yeah.
we've discovered a little bit more of recently, but yeah, that was basically the onus of that. And then the party like has this standoff with Velshinar and Gregorian, and like Anzu gets very upset. It's probably the most animated we have seen Anzu in a very long time. So like, I don't know, Hunter, like what like did in that moment where you're like, oh man, I could probably kill this guy, or like I want to kill this guy, like what
For which part?
for when
we saw-
Velshinar is like messing with your guys' heads and he's like, yeah, all that stuff is real and I'm going to kill everyone you love and care about.
So
Get over it.
Yeah.
it was like right after we got out of the courtrooms, we're running all around in those random rooms. We all have our own vision. Then we all finally meet up, and Velshinar's there talking to us for the first time.
I have been thinking about ways to possibly kill him.
The
But-
ways I would kill this man.
Not quite sure.
So if he is a
how
true
we would
lich,
do
you've
it.
got to find his phylactery.
Yeah.
Sounds dirty.
It's basically what houses his soul, pretty much.
Do we do that before or after the final fight? That's gonna have to be something.
Yeah.
we
Well, you
decide.
guys can always like neutralize him, and he has to reform. And it takes there's rules about how long it takes for a lich to reform from their phylactery.
Yeah.
So like, it could just be like, we just need this dude out of the way.
A couple things I missed here. Number one, Thea, she gains this tattoo because she basically, while she is trying to find a cure to help, Hannah comes back into the story. She's the one with the black spore. While she's trying to figure out a way to help that, Hannah almost dies. And so she basically allows herself to become partial warlock to help, or sorceress.
Yeah, so
To
I
help
can
with-
go deeper. So
Do it a
when
little short though, because we're all getting
when Thea's mother gets brought back, a piece of her soul detached and went to Thea, and that's why she gains a level in sorcerer, because her mom is a sorcerer, so she has innate magic. And then because of this weird arcane magic change, the Queen of Witches, Tasha, notices and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna figure this out." So then Tasha's like, "Oh, I figured out how to do this," because Tasha is from a completely different reality. She's from the Forgotten Realms. She is not from Exandria. She has traveled literally across material planes. Like, she has jumped, because in the Magic card game she's a planeswalker. But I know that's not canon. Anyway, so Thea makes a deal with her, and she doesn't know if it's Tasha or Baba Yaga because they use the same symbol. But luckily it's Tasha, and then that develops there, and then Thea gets gifted the winery that the Spencer family owns. The big thing with all of that is, like, I wanted Thea to be rewarded for sticking with this person and doing what she wanted to do. And then Tasha will probably not show up again. I don't want a god to just be running around. Like,
Yeah.
Tasha, for all intents and purposes, Tasha is a 20 plus wizard, and she is insanely strong. She literally has spells named after her. Like,
Right.
she's insane. She's up there with like Elminster, and like, it just breaks your campaign to have characters like that, and it also delegitimizes your players, because it's like, well, why do we have to do this? Tasha is literally in the next door,
With that, we also missed something Hunter already brought up. We, at the beginning of chapter 2, I think, actually more in the middle of chapter 2, we're at 123 now.
Yeah, chapter 2 went a lot longer than we thought it was going to.
We went back to Whitestone to stop a bomb from exploding. That was probably episode 70-ish, if I could make my best guess. 60s to 70s.
It's around there, yeah.
Hunter, we went there, and we noticed this bomb coming in on a train, because the train was being unveiled. Trains do not exist in this world. It was being unveiled for the first time ever as a
And
train.
you know what? After this shit show, ain't no one gonna want to train.
Yeah. What, from your perspective, just explain what happened there, I think, from your perspective.
Yeah, so I think we all kind of knew it was gonna be at the unveiling, and it was probably gonna be on the thing they were unveiling, which was the train.
Yep.
So, I mean, starting a huge ass fight, between people who are almost level 20 and someone who is level 20 in the middle of the city, probably not going to be the best option. And so the next best thing was shielding the bomb, which I think I ended up using the avatar to help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really one of the first times
No,
used it to full
is,
potential.
Did we? I thought we used plane shift together.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, because then also Mathis uses vestige to try and absorb some of the blast, and yeah.
A lot of stuff happened in that moment where we had to.
It was crazy, but yeah. So going back to you guys do all the legal stuff with Zygon, and then it's like go time. We've got to, like, we do not have a lot of time. We need to get moving. So then the party travels to, I believe, Marquette, and that's where you guys get the dinghy, and you get your new shipwright for some reason.
Yep.
And then you go down to the Ashari, and that's basically where we're at now. Like,
so Thea, we learned she's a living bomb. The magic inside of her is what Jacob just said, Tasha picked up on. She basically can implode. Her mom has been brought back as a clone. These clones that we found, the 5, Shavir specifically was very much involved in this, because Shavira knew the 5 or was part of the 5 once. No, she wasn't part of the original 5.
She was like the 6th member they added after somebody died, basically.
Shavira brought clones back of all the 5, the original 5. The original 5 included Thea's mom, and they were heroes. The new 5 are the bad 5, basically.
And now there's the new 5, which are the reincarnated or the cloned people. But anyway, like so with those characters, I wanted them to kind of be a reflection of like your traditional heroes. Like they all kind of fill a niche inside a traditional hero group, and I wanted them to suck at it. Like they are not good at what they do. And I just find that kind of interesting in playing with that. And then Thea and her mom reconcile kind of, and are like, Thea's like, why can't you travel with us? And her mom's like, well, I got business to take care of. So
Thea's mom, she's brought back. She realizes Thea's going to blow up, or Thea realizes her mom is going to blow up, implode with this magical power, so she runs her out into a forest. She blows up. This whole thing happens. Thea gets sucked into another realm with her mom. This is where where Animus finally gives Rupert a chance for the first time. Rupert's been part of this. Thea in Singorn, when we rejoined with Thea after Abby played Genevieve, said that her and Rupert were a thing, and they had a relationship, and that is now like 70, 80 episodes of a relationship at this point.
Oh, there's some stuff that I'm gonna pull on Abby soon.
So
with some stuff that Rupert did, that's gonna be really, really
Animus
fun.
Up until this point finally gives Rupert another chance. He's like, you need to find Thea for us, and he also, I think there's a little thing where I'm like, good luck, or like, I forgive you, or something that's like along those lines. But Rupert goes in and goes to find Thea in the Feywild, and she has a little episode. Which I would say go watch that one. Not as important.
It's fun. It's a fun one.
Me and Hunter do an episode by ourselves. Really fun. I think I called it A Wizard in a Dinghy. I did.
That was fun too.
It's called A Wizard in a Dinghy.
Hunter has the ability to make a 5-second interaction into an hour.
But in the best way.
What did I do?
In the best way possible.
You were like, I need a boat. And then I was like, okay. There's a lot of boats. No. I want a tiny boat.
I want a dinghy, and I also want to hire that man who
I want to
builds the
hire
dinghy,
a dude and
I want to
pay
take
him
his
to
family
move
with
across
us.
a continent. Yeah. But like, but I don't know. I think we're basically caught up now. Like, if you want to watch the Ashari stuff, and like, I don't know how much of it is released on YouTube. I don't know if you're fully caught up.
Almost fully. We're 2 episodes behind now. Okay, so I'll just say up to the end of this campaign, because I'll probably release this after. We now realize from here, this is where we realize, okay, we need to get the last vestige that we're trying to get. So we now have I'll have Jacob list the vestiges after I say this. We're going for the last vestige, which is for Anzu. Anzu's vestige will make his spells more powerful and will allow him to have more power as a wizard with those spells. So we're going for it. We drop into the middle of the ocean between somewhere about 200 miles off Marquette towards Amman, but like it's way closer to Marquette. We have a fight against... Hold on. Skeleton storm giants. Bards, 4 of them. A giant army of tritons. All of this is underwater. A ghost pirate captain. From there, we get the vestige, and then we go on to try to figure out Animus's final Aramente piece, which is the water Ashari. Technically, I have one more piece, which would be going back to the Air Ashari. That'll happen in chapter 3. But we go to find that water Ashari. When we do that, the water Ashari is immediately attacked, and we go into a fight that includes a shadow dragon, a large army
made of shadow.
A dragon made of shadow, sorry.
Shadow dragons are different things.
A dragon made of shadow. A kraken. A giant army of shadows. The 3 who work for Marqueus. And a little bit of Shavira. More seen, not acted. And that is where we are now. Yeah, so we have made it up to this point. That is the end of chapter 2. We end up defeating these 3. I think, Hunter, I want to hear your side on this. Brady and Hunter, they take their characters, Zygon and Anzu, they go out to this beach while we're all in the middle of the ocean. We're like dying too. Sirius is going down. Animus is going down. They go to this beach to think that they're going to end this fight because of this obelisk that is giving power to this shadow army. They meet the 3 there on their own, just the 2 of them. They wipe them out, just the 2 of them. Wipe out these 3 who at one point in time that we have talked about gave us so much downfall and so little hope that we would ever have a chance against this power. What kind of, like, I just want to hear your whole side of that fight and everything like that.
Caleb, when I saw the 3, it was on site. If Anzu could whip out his magical Glock, he would have. I mean, I was kind of just focused on killing them. I know we discussed, like, maybe they aren't the real ones, maybe they're clones, but, you know.
I think we discussed that they might have clones, but they were definitely the real ones.
I'm hoping they are. So
I just think
it made me feel good.
From where we were, where we lost so many fights, and we had to abandon so many fights and run so many times. Getting into a fight where we survived that long and also split up, and then also you and Zygon, you disintegrate one, Zygon completely knocks out the other, and then you guys trap the third one, and then Thea, when we finally arrived, the rest of us, pushed her into a black hole. That was a huge turning point of like, oh shit, we can actually like do this damage. And currently, like, I have a point of exhaustion and have 0 spells and have 0 shapeshifts. So we just went through this whole fight where like all of us have used so many spells. All of us have gone down a ton of health. We're still alive, and none of us have died, and we are also defeating them at the same time at the end of the fight we already did. So yeah, it's kind of insane. From there,
yeah, I mean, I'm personally in a spot right now where like I really want to be on the offensive at this point. Because like, I don't know. As a person in general, I've always believed that offense is the best defense. Like, the art of surprise or, you know, overwhelming them. It's very much something I want to do in the story, but we'll have to figure out how we're gonna do that.
I think we're on the first steps. Where we ended off is we finished basically Animus accepted gained the Aramente by not having to do it after that fight. I go through the ritual. Animus has won the finale of chapter 2, where we will end this tonight. Jacob is a dickhead for this.
I am a genius.
Animus, after that fight, while he's asleep, everybody goes through another kind of vision area where they see these visions of things happening in the world. Like Jacob said, it's being shown to them.
Thanks, magic.
Animus sees Rupert in the Shadowfell. So I think Zygon saw Rebecca being tortured.
Mm-hmm.
Cirrus saw
the Feywild getting invaded,
being corrupted. Hunter, do you remember what Anzu saw?
Linares getting attacked.
In the last episode? Linares being attacked.
They're basically running away.
By Velshinar.
And then Thea saw... Was it her family or single?
Oh man, what was Thea's? Oh gosh, I don't remember. I don't remember what Thea's was.
I don't fully either right now.
It was one of the planes getting... Oh, it was Avernus getting invaded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'll explain why Thea saw Avernus getting invaded later, but not right now.
So...
Yeah, I mean, I think the next step is going after Shavira. I think Shavira is a fight where we all have to be there, and
everybody gotta be locked in for that one.
I just don't know how we're gonna like stop her from running away or pulling some, you know,
Yeah,
shit where
she's
she
gonna be a tough one.
tricks us into leaving and all that.
Well, I'll tell you my thought in a sec. So, last thing we did, Animus had a vision. His vision was seeing Rupert. Rupert gave him a cipher. The cipher, basically, so I've been counting down the days to really help us, like, implement our time well. The cipher showed us that Rupert had found out that 4 worlds had already been invaded, which we didn't know about, including Avernus, the Feywild, the Shadowfell, and parts of the material plane. The elemental planes are going to be completely taken over within 3 days, and the material plane only has 10 days. We thought we had at least 3 weeks. So,
Yep.
with that, Rupert also had given me a token whenever I had sent him after Thea a few episodes back when I said, hey, go look for Thea for us. Animus, I took a point of corruption to figure out the cipher. I figured out that cipher. Through that, I kind of started hearing all the shadows. My connection to the Shadowfell. One of my backstory things is that my connection to the Shadowfell kind of starts driving me crazy and puts me into these panic attacks almost, but they're dangerous panic attacks. I start freaking out about Rupert. Thea hears me. Thea comes over. This token that Rupert had given me, after I tell them what's going on, that token flips up. Thea grabs it. Thea sees Rupert one last time in a vision that could have been her and a family with Rupert, and in that moment, Rupert is killed by Marqueus with the dragon sword, which means he is dead. There is almost zero chance of ever resurrecting.
Well, and there's a whole. So we will get into why Rupert is absolutely 100% dead. He
had
cannot
a
be
connection
resurrected.
with Vecna as well. Like, there's a lot of things.
There's
that
a lot.
in
There's a
D&D,
lot there.
You cannot be resurrected again when you attach your soul to certain gods. When you, like, with the Raven Queen, like, if you die, you're supposed to just be dead. You're gone. You're not supposed to come back at all.
Unless she believes that you are more useful to her alive than you are dead, and then she will basically make you a champion and say, once this task is over, it's finito.
Yeah, and I one of the only reasons she allowed Anzu to come back is because one of his major purposes currently is to hunt and kill Velshinar. Velshinar being a lich, that is one of the biggest things that her entire, like, domain is fighting against, as people who try to escape death. So, but yeah, so that was a really emotional moment in our final episode. I'll be posting that one in the next week or so. This will come after all that, so that is null and void to anyone who watches this on YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Yeah, so, and then we ended by telling the Arashari, like, hey, you guys, or sorry, the Water Ashari, like, hey, this is happening, and the elemental planes are going to be taken over. They bring in all the leaders of the world. I added a little bit
Around the world.
after I got my water elemental form, I added one little extra piece. After I saw the visions of Shadowfell fully being corrupted, fully being taken over, I asked a question that I gave Jacob the openness to allow my parents to either be dead or alive 5 years ago. And I asked that question on this past Sunday because I wanted to just have that, like, full feeling of, like, oh, my parents are definitely dead, and I know that.
Super finito.
But I wanted to ask it, and so I asked it, and the Raven Queen said yes, basically, and also
the response was never truly gone. They're never really gone.
But all of my people who are enslaved are also gone. They're mutated shadow creatures. And with that was the end of. This is where I was gonna get Hunter in. Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
We're going on the offense right now. Our next step is hunting down and killing the Baylor.
Not enough.
It's not enough, but it's the first step. We go to Drina. We kill the Baylor. If we kill the Baylor, it releases Zygon and I from the whole thing with the Baylor for the past 4 years of playing. That then allows me to not be a warlock anymore, and it gives Zygon a way not to either kill me or for me to have to kill him. Then we have to go after one of the others, and it's either the 3 women again, or one of the 5, or just something we can.
Yeah. So your options are Velshinar, Shavira, Marqueus, or something else.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this ends. I do worry that, like, what would suck is if you die in one of the fights before Marqueus, and then it's like, what are we gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
We don't want to roll up a new character for like 4 sessions, especially like I think what I would do at that point is I would be like, okay, pick one of the NPCs.
Yeah. I don't.
You're going to play one of them.
We have such
Here's my thought, right? The Fae is currently fighting, right?
Yeah.
Fae's corrupted.
Well, so the Fae. So basically, the only thing that hasn't been taken over yet is the Unseelie Court, because it's very, very hard to get one over on the Unseelie. They are a terrifying group. They're
So,
very man. The
like,
Unseelie are
is
terrifying.
Titania just gone?
I don't know. You're gonna have to try and
I
find
mean,
out.
if it's in the Fae right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think our best option is to go where the fight is, because that's where we're going to find one of them.
That's possible, yeah.
And once you fight them off in the Fae will help. I think whether they're Sealied or Unsealied, they will understand, because they just went through it.
Or we go
and
where
are
the
going
fight's
to be
about
more
to
open
be
to.
in 3 days.
I mean, that's gonna be all up to you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
again,
we
that's
talked
up to
about
us.
this,
But I
yeah.
think in the world where like you can be in the fight like that.
I mean, you
Still
guys
fight.
can literally pull a Thor from Infinity War, where he just shows up on the battlefield,
Right.
and you immediately start fighting everything. Like, you could do that if you wanted.
Like
I would
I
agree.
almost think we should just arm a shit ton of the kobolds and go in there.
Those poor kobolds. I can just
Hey,
see them
man.
all now, just under a giant fly swatter.
They know Papa Dragon.
They built a statue to Anzu. I mean,
This
come
is
on.
why we've been like hoarding armor and weapons and shit.
That's true.
This is why I've been buying a bunch of stuff, is so we can go in there and fuck shit up.
I agree. I think that's something we're definitely I think that's what we're all agreeing that we want to do. I think that's definitely gonna happen, but we're just gonna have to decide where we go first.
And I think Amon's just gonna have to effectively shut down and become a military state until
Yeah. Well,
it's over.
starting
mean-
in the next episode, first episode of chapter 3, we're going where Soph told us the Baylor is, to get him killed, to get him out of the whole process, hopefully. And then the only other thing I need to do is just go up to the Arashari and go through the final ritual, which there's no fighting or anything up there. That'll probably be all roleplay.
Well, you could get there when the air elemental plane is being invaded, though.
That's what I was
That is-
about. That's what I was going to say a couple minutes ago. The elemental planes are being attacked in less than 3 days. We figured out. So if we want to take the fight to them, if the Fae is already fully corrupted, why don't we go to where the next attack will be instead of where they all already are, and get the jump on them where they will be. We'll have to talk about it for sure.
Well, guys, that's going to be up to you. It's been a crazy 5 years, and I wouldn't have done it with any other group. It's been super, super fun. It's been very rewarding as a DM. I was thinking about it today. I have DM'd this group for half the time I've been DMing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is insane. But you know, we've waxed poetic. We'll have a lot more to say when the campaign is officially wrapped up.
Absolutely. This is definitely a super awesome experience to be going through 5
It's
years
so
later.
fun.
I mean,
It's
we
so
have
fun.
we still have a lot left. It's not going to be time wise, it's not going to be as much, but it's going to probably hit all the emotional buttons of the past 5 years. So
I will not feel accomplished as a DM if in the final episode at least 2 of you aren't crying. I think I can get Caleb, and I think I can get Abby. I know I can't get Zach. Zach is a cold-hearted stone sculpture of nothing. I cannot get him. I've just got to, you know what, actually, I'll get him a goth girlfriend in the game, and then I'll have her brutally murdered in front of him,
Oh my
and
God.
then he'll cry.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and end it there for tonight. We will be back with chapter 3 next weekend. But
Not this coming one.
Yeah,
just to be clear.
not
We're
2
taking
days
we're taking this weekend
next
off.
weekend. But yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you for everyone who's watching. Thank you for everyone in the future who may be catching up on this.
Hi, future children.
Don't do
I
this
hope.
again. God damn it.
Your Uncle
But-
Jacob is pretty cool, huh?
Oh my
Caleb's
God.
kids.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, hopefully what comes next works out for the Flagon Slayers. Otherwise, RIP one of our players.
Or all of them.
No. See you guys.